visited?
I will give you details as the week progresses, but suffice it to say, it was in Githunguri.
Okay.
Yes.
So today what you're just doing is giving us in any headlines.
I'm giving you the headlines. Githunguri is headline.
Okay.
And just so that the headline is a little more to the point, Githunguri is in Kiambu County.
And there are waterfalls.
And they are lovely, lovely waterfalls.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And where were you? Where did you visit?
I was at home.
She visited home.
Yes, I did.
So which home?
My home here. I visited all the
In the Nairobi metropolis.
Exactly. Every room in my house got to know me a little bit better. Let's put it that way.
Oh, really? Where were the kids?
No.
Oh, that's what you mean. Oh, okay. All right. I get you now.
Welcome back.
Today is Monday, Eric. Monday.
Steady there, man.
The 1st of January. It's like the 4th.
Kids are going back to school, so kids are on the road already, I'm sure, heading to school in various parts of the country. Those that walk to school, those that take matatus to school, public transport, those that take school transport to school. We'll be having a whole conversation about schools reopening and the readiness for this, and also how we feel about that. We also know that the president extended some of the measures that had been in place before this new year, and this is extension of the curfew, extension of some of the restrictions. But, yeah. We also know that the people who have spent the entire night somewhere heading towards Nairobi on the roads.
Yes.
So we'll be talking to them as well, and they'll tell us how far they've come so far.
Or not.
But COVID is still in the country, and we always do is just review what's happening in terms of COVID numbers. Now we've seen that during that whole December festivities, infection rate went low.
It did, eh?
Yes.
As did everything else.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so let's look at global numbers first of all. We're looking at global numbers now of 85.5 million cases now around the world, with those numbers rising steadily. Almost 2 million deaths now, with 1.85 million deaths around the world. Let's look at the United States, where numbers have grown considerably since the last time we spoke. We're looking now at 21,113,528 cases in the US, with now well over 350,000 deaths. And they continue to deal with numbers that skyrocketing in terms of hospital admissions and things like this. So about half the population that has contracted COVID-19 has recovered. And so they're looking about, 10 million, 9 million active cases at the moment. Talks of vaccine continue. Vaccine rollout in the United States continues to pick up pace. So that's what we're looking at there. The countries in Europe, especially Western Europe, that suffered a lot of these cases, still continue to suffer, with biting down hard on the UK, for example, where they're now at 2.6 million cases. France also is at 2.6, Russia at 3.2, Brazil at 7.7, and India at 10.3. So still looking at high cases in Spain, Germany, Italy. Those are the numbers that we're looking at that are quite high. It is true that if we come back to the continent and look at Kenya, the positivity rate has dropped considerably. I think what we're looking at now in Kenya is a positivity rate of 3.9 from the recent numbers given. Also taking into consideration that over the last 2-3 weeks, testing has not been widespread, not been done, not targeted, not in any way. Only kind of testing we've seen is when people have presented themselves to hospital with symptoms, okay? So Kenya now has 96,802 cases. Testing has been relatively low. And yes, we will probably see a rise in numbers as things get back to normal in terms of people getting back to work and school. 124 cases in the last 24 hours. No deaths having been recorded or reported. So that's what we're looking at now. Again, looking at the fact that the positivity rate has dropped from 16% over the last 2 months, and now we're at 3.9. It'll be interesting to see how that opens up in the next couple of days. And the vaccine continues to be used worldwide, and talks of vaccine then being readily available in Kenya very soon also. coming from the Ministry of Health. So this is all a wait and see kind of thing in terms of how soon it will be. Children going back to school, 15 million children back into the system over the next 3 days. Some schools open today, others tomorrow, the day after that. So by the end of the week, we're going to see everybody back in school. Do we think that there's going to be a spike in COVID infections? Definitely so, just because of this increased movement. And then take into consideration what would have happened over the last 2 weeks with people traveling and such. But that notwithstanding, different things need to take place. People need to go back to work. Children need to go back to school. It's happening. In terms of what's being done to curb the spread, that's a totally different story.
People need to stay alive.
People need to stay alive.
People need to stay well. And if you traveled outside Nairobi, or even if we were within Nairobi and you went to the places where people congregate, like supermarkets, like markets,
beaches,
my friend, no social distancing, wearing of masks, Eric, if I may quote you, a suggestion. And if you move outside into the larger metropolis, people will categorically inform you there is no COVID. Yes.
So on your travails, you met such individuals?
I always have this conversation. I always do, because I always do. And then I'm told there is no COVID. I said, really? I said, no. COVID was just a scam that was used to get money. Now they've got the money. Now there is no COVID. What surprised me was, I thought it was just in one part. I visited several parts of the metropolis. Same story. It's like these guys were all given the same script to read from. And when you walked around, again, vendors were selling their things. Social distancing, forget about it completely. Doesn't exist. Masks, a few wear it. In fact, the majority of people have face masks, but it's on their chin.
It's for the police.
It's for compliance.
Yeah, it's just for police. So, and this is not new. This is not because it was over Christmas that this was happening.
Not.
This is how it has been for a very long time.
Yes. And what about matatus?
Same. The issue of, reduced number of passengers in the matatu, that's a story. So this is how it has been. And that's why when you look at now, even it's saying the schools are reopening and things are going to be different. Not necessarily, by the way.
Do you know the one thing that never gained prominence or was not discussed adequately? How it is that in reality, on this continent, COVID-19 is not affecting the people of this continent as much as it's affecting others.
Yep.
It is a truth. Why?
Yeah.
The why has been sort of like skirted around, touched upon, but essentially wished away. And
come up with very many theories.
Yes.
The age, demographic, the temperatures.
It's a young population. It's this. It's the tropics. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been. Now, from a research perspective, it ought to have been. Because given what COVID has done around the world, it's an anomaly.
Yeah.
Why this anomaly? And why here? It's a question that is worth asking. And it's a question that is worth answering. And now that we have the vaccine, this one I have to ask one Mr. Mutai Kagwe to make haste and ensure that we're on top of it. In this sense, to explain what a vaccine actually is. Because people think a vaccine is a cure. And they're anticipating and waiting for it to cure them. It's preventative. And it is also not 100% preventative. The likelihood of it helping you is greater than of it not helping you. But you see, when you hear vaccine, people then hear COVID finished.
Sure.
Now, that has to be drummed up. In the same manner we talked about COVID results on a daily basis, this, I believe, ought to be discussed on a daily basis so people actually understand.
That COVID is still here. And
Yes, COVID is still here.
Okay, but who are you telling?
Telling the Minister for Health.
Yeah, who do you want him to tell?
Who was he talking to every time he makes an announcement about COVID?
Those people who stopped listening.
No.
A long time ago.
He has to.
Those ones that are telling you that was a story designed to get money. Those ones that still believe, well, yes, there's COVID, yes, there could be some people who are getting sick here and there, yes, but...
Eric, you have to talk about the vaccine, whether people are listening or not. It is their job to talk about the vaccine, what it can do, what it can't do, what it cannot mean. Those who listen, those who watch on TV will understand. What they do with the information really is
really
really up to them. But that information must be aired far and wide and continuously over a long period of time. It must be told.
Hopefully, when the vaccine arrives, and now there's a rollout of the vaccine, now that's when they'll have a conversation.
That's where I think they go wrong. You don't wait for it to arrive. You have that
You're
conversation.
telling people about something that they don't even have.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. It is coming.
I know what you're saying, but in reality, start talking about a vaccine now and you start opening up that kind of worms. So this vaccine that you're telling us, when is it coming?
Precisely. That's the point.
So who's going to get that
Let
vaccine?
the vaccine... And
they don't have those answers.
Actually, if you begin this discussion long before the vaccine actually arrives on our shows, so much the better. So that all the kinks that are in the discussion are aired out long before the vaccine arrives. You see, when we were told about the stadiums, had they arrived? No.
And that's why you stop talking about them.
No, stadiums are a bit different. The fact that the stadium isn't there doesn't mean I'll fall sick.
Right.
And if it's supposed to be in a region, I'm not going to play football. All I'm saying is, it is sometimes good. I believe you do understand what I'm saying, and I also do understand what you are saying. But this is something that must be discussed ahead of time and must be told so that all the discussions around it can be had. When the vaccine is here and you're having a discussion, it's a very different discussion. No one will listen to you completely. Now they have time to listen because it isn't there. It arrives here. You're talking to yourself. They're going, okay, so we've heard you. Where's the vaccine? It doesn't, fine. Look, where's the vaccine? Okay.
6:15. Good morning. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Eric Latif, CT Muga, Nduoko. We are back. Happy New Year wherever you are. And thank you very much for tuning in this early morning. We'll be saying hi to you shortly. Let's take a look at the weather and then we look at the headlines.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, Spice FMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique, the official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be.
Okay, so this morning it's partly cloudy in Nairobi as we kick things off. And we're going to see sunny conditions throughout the day with highs of 26 and lows of 15. Partly cloudy conditions in Nakuru at 14, highs of 26 today. 26 will be the high in Nyeri as well, where it's clear at 10 degrees at the moment. Clear also in Eldoret at 12, going to highs of 24. And 19 degrees, experiencing rain in some parts of Kisumu this morning, highs of 26. And 19 also in Kakamega. Clear skies, however, we'll see highs of 28 today, lows of 14. It's raining in Mombasa and parts of it this morning at 25. That'll be the low for today, highs of 31. Light rain in Malindi at 19, highs of 25 and lows of 16. It's also raining in Kampala at 22. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 19. Rain continues in Dar es Salaam this morning at 26. Highs will be 32, coming back down to lows of 26. Looking into Johannesburg, 16 degrees, clear skies at the moment, highs of 23. Clear conditions also in Lagos this morning at 27. We'll go to highs of 32 and lows of 25. 24 in Kinshasa and clear, highs of 29 and lows of 24. -3 in Beijing as the bitter winter continues to beat down. We'll see highs of -2 only and lows of -12. 3 degrees in Paris and cloudy. That'll be the high for today, coming down to lows of 2. And London also a clear at 4, highs of 5 and lows of 3. And finally, for now, Sunday night in New York reads 3. Rain through most parts of the night, waking up into Monday morning with highs of 4 and lows of 2.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice. Spice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Okay, it's 18 minutes.
94.4 Spice FM,
Day
Nairobi.
of January 2021. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, and people are already online. Who is online?
That they are. Okay,
Yes.
Shiragi Moy, guess where he is this morning? He's at the commuter train Kawa station waiting for the Roiro Eagle. Might be late this morning. But he says, Happy New Year. We shall say Happy New Year till Easter.
Shurage.
Vincent says, good morning, Happy New Year, my good people. Welcome back. A lot has happened while you were away, from Ethiopia to Uganda and even here at home. Good to have you back once again after the break. Tuko pamoja. Fantastic. Happy New Year, says Dagi Oguta. Welcome back, Ndu Latif and CT. Good you people are back. And I'm already tuned in from Nyabola, Nyakach. Ainley Steve says, good morning, Happy New Year. Thank you for the conversation. Waterman Jeffrey is tuned in as well and says, Happy New Year, folks. Phyllis Mogi, good morning. Listening from Kasarani, Karibu Sana. Robert Mbogo, good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Tuned in from Mombasa. And Charity is tuned in from Nakuru and says, Happy New Year as well. BJ Ariko says, good morning, my people. Muga, Ndu and Eric. I am reachable in Kakamega as quick as lightning.
Okay.
Ed Gitonga says, finally, my favorite morning show is back. The morning sucked. Missed you guys big time. The next time you go on such a break, I'm going to file a petition against the same. We'll call later and wish you guys a Happy New Year. Isaiah is tuned in, as is Cyprian Mwaura. Godfrey and Lodge. Everybody's tuned in this morning. Karibu Sana and good morning.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for tuning in this morning. CT, the first proverb of the year.
If you marry a monkey for its wealth, the money goes and the monkey remains.
Sorry, what now?
If you marry a monkey for its wealth, the money goes and the monkey remains. Who takes the money?
Egyptian saying, who takes the money? That is what we're going to be looking into. And we're also going to ask the all-important question, why does the monkey remain?
Yeah.
Why are you marrying a monkey?
And how did the monkey get money?
Precisely. And why marry a monkey?
So the monkey, before it married you, it had the money.
It had the money.
It marries human.
Because
it loses money.
Human being.
So that tells you human and money.
Money disappears
Maji.
when human come.
Yes. Human come, money go.
Money go. Monkey remain.
Monkey remain.
Congratulations.
Poor monkey. Mumu. It's a monkey.
Monkey does remain. Now give that thing a little twist and a little relevance, and you'll be amazed at how far it goes.
We'll look at it. Okay, so let's look at the headlines. Apart from the schools are opening, but that's a big story anyway. So let's look at that. We'll be discussing that, by the way, in the next hour. We'll have, joining us will be the chairperson of the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association, Mr. Kahindi Muli. Right. Yep. He'll be speaking to us and be asking about the preparedness of the schools, what they see as the challenges. He was part of the people who were meeting yesterday in that big meeting that was chaired by the CS for Interior, former Prime Minister. CS for Interior, Mr. Matiang'i. Dr. Matiang'i.
Dr. Fred Matiang'i.
And then at the 8 o'clock hour, we'll be speaking with the government spokesman and ask about very many other things. But let's go at that headline. So,
So many things going on. Schools gamble, according to the Standard. Braving the risks. Nation takes a bold step as 15 million learners tiptoe back to class after a 10-month closure. Unsure what the future holds. From today, every available space, including tree shades, will be converted to classrooms as government rolls out measures amid serious concerns. So there are some concerns from several quarters. That notwithstanding, schools will open. So there are measures that have been put in place. Schools will convert all open spaces into classrooms. All teachers and students will wear masks at all times. Teachers and other staff aged 58 plus with pre-existing conditions to work from home. All schools to ensure adequate hand washing stations. Non-essential visits to school by parents and guardians have been banned. All extracurricular activities suspended for 90 days. School heads to maintain a register of 6 students or teachers and inform the health authority. So this is covered extensively from page 2 to 5. But it seems like, first of all, we're going with all systems go as schools reopen. So despite concerns over learners' safety, it is all systems go for schools and the government sought to assure parents and learners that adequate plans have been put in place to ensure safe resumption of learning across all public and private institutions. Despite the safety concerns and fears on the level of preparedness that have been expressed by head teachers and parents, the government put up a strong face as it announced yesterday that it is ready to roll out classes after the unprecedented closure. According to CS George Makoha, all public schools must ensure that all learners are enrolled back to school irrespective of their balances. So the school fees issue, of course, came into play. And yesterday he was categorical and said that, look, let no student be turned away because of lack of school fees.
But he had a rider.
He did have a rider, and he said, we will only look at the cases which would be deemed by schools as critical, and those then need to be taken into consideration. Because remember, the boarders come to school as well. They must be fed and cared for. So it would be a case-by-case basis, and even that case-by-case basis would be looked at as in terms of what is critical or where there is dire need. That is what
we are talking about public schools here, aren't we?
Yes.
All right. Now, as we talk about what has been put in place for preparedness, monies that the schools are supposed to use, has that been wired to the schools?
They said it would be in the account today.
Yesterday, the CS was saying that money is being wired.
Yes. So yesterday being Sunday, okay, so we understand it's non-transactional day.
Of course.
But so today, Monday, he said very clearly, the money would be in the account today.
Which money?
See, it's not coming by a truck or
Or by donkey?
cash in transit vehicles that is stopping at the just account.
Wire.
It's just wire. Just press a button.
Inakuja na web.
It's available.
Wow. Okay.
So, which money?
Specifically.
Which money?
If
Why are you asking this question?
I'm asking these questions because if it is a boarding school, there is money that is often given just for, I'm going to call it basic maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah, food, just even.
So how
if
is that
it a
money
day
given? How is it calculated? Is it per child? Capitation? How much per child?
per child, but I know these figures. The figures I'm not.
Okay, so it's per child per term.
Yes.
But it's disbursed not the entire
Yeah,
for the entire term at a go, is it?
sometimes it is.
All right.
Sometimes it is.
So that is that now. That is supporting boarding.
No, even day schools are given that money for food because it is assumed that children are going to remain in school even over lunchtime. Even they get.
So that is for food.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
It's maintenance.
And now the others for books and stuff?
Yeah. Books they supply these days.
Oh, so the books will come.
The books will
All right,
come, yes.
okay.
Even the ones you don't need, they will come. Yes. That one comes. Then there are salaries for teachers.
Okay.
Okay. Now, boarding schools, different matter altogether.
Teachers have been getting their salaries anyway, so there is no issue here.
I wonder. You see, when it
They
comes
got
to
their
these,
December salary.
with these things that have to do with the government, you want to tick every box. Yeah, so that when you're talking preparedness, you will know, okay, this has been fulfilled, this is what remains.
This is done,
Yes.
this is not.
But you cannot just assume that everything will be done. No, it is wrong to assume. And then when you talk about preparedness, vis-a-vis COVID, there is a story of running water. Okay, forget face mask. Let's leave that aside for the time being.
Yeah.
Just running water.
Yeah.
What is it that has been done to ensure that there's running water?
The government has not announced any specific measure that is going to help in COVID in terms of like, no, there's extra money, X amount of money has been set aside to help schools to get running water or to have tanks or to have such kind of
exactly
things.
assumed there.
The only thing was that was the desks.
Those desks haven't arrived. But let's leave the desks aside. You can learn without desks. It is assumed that the board of management that every school has will look into these things. No one is saying it loudly, but it is assumed that now there'll be some community effort around this to ensure that these things get done. Because these schools actually do exist within communities, and they do have PTAs or TAs. So that is the unspoken assumption. And in my opinion, it is a good assumption, and it is good to make that assumption a reality. Yes. These are things that need to get done so that the students work, as in study, in a safe environment. So if you can get it done, get it done.
If you can get it done, do it.
Get it
For
done.
goodness sake. You would want to assume that it would go without saying, but I think there's some things that cannot be left to the wind to carry for you. So I think in this case, if it should be done, just get it done. Following on that story, the extension of curfew and such, and the ban of gathering in schools and homes, we saw that these extracurricular activities, such as trips and PE and things like that, will not take place, right? The nationwide nightly curfew that has been in place since March last year has been extended for another 60 days. The curfew will now be in place up until the 12th of March as part of the measures aimed at taming the spread of COVID-19 as schools reopen today. Interior CS Fred Matiang'i made the announcement yesterday, citing an executive order issued by President Uhuru Kenyatta, a statement signed by the head of public service Joseph Kinyua, and the nationwide curfew would continue to be enforced between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. daily.
Do you get this feeling that the government is really enjoying this curfew business?
I must ask though, is the curfew being followed to the letter?
No. By and large,
That's not the discussion.
By and large, very many people are indoors
At
after
that time
11
anyway.
or midnight. But this government seems to be enjoying a bit more in terms of, even if you look at how they report, incidences of insecurity and all have reduced.
Considerably.
Right? So the government is enjoying this. This is not about fighting COVID anymore. It's basically, I think, the government just looking at it and saying, wait.
It's an element of control that we can wield.
Yes.
You put it very well, because it means most crimes occur at night. Okay? So, at least most crimes that are reported. I'm sure a lot of crimes occur in the daytime because there are more people around in the daytime to commit crimes on. But man, when you have all your population, at least the majority of them, under lock and key, early in the evening, is that not a good time?
It's a very good thing.
All you're doing is mopping up these errant people who like to...
You can now catch the thieves.
Yes. Or those who like mangaing, as we call it. Yes. Vagrants.
So this curfew business, by the way, I just think about it and thinking, so why extend the curfew by a further 90 days? What impact is it having on the spread of COVID-19 and curtailing the spread of COVID-19? When you actually look at the pictures that you're seeing here, even in shops, people who are going to buy uniforms and school uniforms, look at the pictures in the papers. Masks for who? No story here about masks. So one person will have a mask, 3 will not have. The shopkeeper will have. All the papers this morning, if you just look at the photos, you basically just see people don't wear masks.
Nope.
So if during the day people are behaving this way, what is it that's happening at night that then we would say, okay, this is helping us bring down the positivity rate from 16% to 3%?
They're sleeping.
I think it's just much more than this. I think it's a point where the government is basically at a point where it has seen the effect of having curfew. It has seen the effect of reminding everybody that there's government. It has seen the effect of reducing crime rates and all in terms of looking at its statistics, and it's going to ride this wave for as long as possible. People are complaining that it's going to go until March. 69 days extended. Wait. And March again until June.
Until June.
Oh, yeah.
You know something? Sometimes you have to perhaps look at this thing, and as you have done, Eric, look at situation from the perspective of the government. If you don't have money to give to your citizens, you have money for other things, but you don't have money to ensure that the things you need to do, like paying certain salaries at a certain time, giving the counties money, and if you don't have that sort of money, surely you are likely to have less industrial problems from your citizens if they're kept under lock and key. Yes. And COVID gives you the perfect excuse.
Yep. Fungia, wow.
Yes.
28 minutes to 7. Let's take another break, take a look at the traffic, and then we look at more headlines. This is Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Have you seen Am I live?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
Spice FM, Malindi.
All right, Monday morning and things are building up.
Traffic.
Wherever it is that we are looking. Mombasa Road, heading out into the CBD this morning. Very slow, especially around the SGR and then moving out towards Cabanas. It's going to take some time to get off then towards General Motors, but it's not too bad at the moment. We expected it to go a little bit crazy this morning, likely to build up as more and more people on the roads getting back to work and also, yes, getting back to school. Let's look at other parts though, and on Langata Road as well, building up, connecting from the bypass and then heading into the city. That is also a bit slow, but it's moving, so we're not going to have too much headache there right now. Okay, headed out then into the CBD, coming out of Westlands. That's also moving along slowly, not a problem. Where it is slowing down considerably is right around Muthaiga, and that Thika Road, it looks like it's going to be chaotic today. It's very, very slow at the underpass at Pangani and then headed out into the city. So everything slowing down considerably this morning means that if you didn't leave, now is the time to do so, or you might want to wait it out till later. So it's moving very, very slowly. We're going to take a look back in a short while and see how they may have changed. Let us know 0719 012 600 or text 40127. Even better, tweet Spice FMKE.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
7.
Nairobi.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Now, Murang'a Senator Irongo Kang'ata is a majority whip in the Senate. He has written a missive to his boss, the party leader of Jubilee, the President of the Republic, and he has told him, boss, hey, see, I went home for Christmas. I spoke to 1 or 2 people, 2 or 3 people here and there. My friend, this BBI thing in Mount Kenya, not sailing. It is not sailing. So he's basically written to the party leader, and he's telling him the referendum will flop in Mount Kenya. This is carried in all the papers this morning, and the letter that he wrote to the party leader was basically just saying the same. He was basically saying, talking to the people on the ground and their own understanding of what this BBI is all about, despite what he says are very positive things contained in the BBI proposals and the proposal to amend the constitution, but the people believe or have another view about this BBI story. They think this BBI is A, ill-timed, B, does not contain any gains for them as a people, and so they put in Mount Kenya. Out of every 10 people that he spoke to, 6 were categorical, no BBI. The other 4, 2 were the ones that are saying yes, and 2 were non-committal. So basically, out of every 10 people, you only have 2 votes for BBI.
Okay. What he's saying, I think, has what we call a gravitas. But from a research perspective, the first thing I would ask is, what was the sample size?
He said it's not a scientific. This is completely not scientific. This is just from my own anecdotal speaking to people. Yes. Every 10 people that I spoke to, this was the kind of feeling I was getting in Murang'a, in my home area. And then I would also speak now to other people from other parts of central Kenya. And this is the kind of vibe I'm getting.
You know, this is a politician talking about the vibe he felt. And the reason why he's a successful politician is because they tend to have their pulse on what is actually happening and what people are thinking or feeling. What I'd like to understand is this. Now, this is not anecdotal. This is the feeling now as he talks about it. But what has brought it about? Is it the BBI or the circumstances prevailing even before the BBI gathered momentum and became the big talk, the big news? Is it a quarrel with the BBI? Is it a quarrel with the government? Is it a quarrel with Uhuru? Or is it that those who were propagating anti-BBI sentiments proclaimed it louder, wider, faster than the BBI? These are the circumstances that I would like. And why do I mention all these things? Because in political circles and the political arena, this can change. But the thing that is true is this. He goes on to say, I'm looking at what has been reported again in all the papers, more or less the same thing, is that the president has to intervene personally. And secondly, he says, the provincial administration, as we used to call them, what they call the national...
Ngaos.
Yes, they should be invisible.
Basically, that's the main thrust of his issue as well, is who is selling the BBI in the area, in the country. He's saying, first of all, the BBI is being sold by civil servants. And the civil servants who come from the security side of things. So they're using a strong arm methods of trying to push through the BBI. And the political leaders who are the ones who speak to the people have been sidelined. He gives the example, for example, of Muturi Kigano, and he says this person has been supporting the BBI, has been supporting Jubilee since 2017 when he was elected. He's now even chairing a very crucial committee in the National Assembly, the Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. He is the man who understands the law and how the law is going to be passed through Parliament. But when it comes to the ground, his political opponent is the one who has been given the job of spearheading BBI. So Muturi Kigano now is sitting there wondering, okay, so now...
What's going on here?
Yeah. And he says this is happening to other political leaders as well. The political leaders in Mount Kenya are not being involved. And then the so-called provincial administration, he calls it provincial administration, we know what he means. The county commissioners and those are the ones who are being used. And the people who are not directly elected right now, but they are political players, are the ones who are running the show.
And that automatically will bring friction. Because then you're introducing political competition within your own party, within that region.
And within a campaign.
Exactly. So essentially, it's like pointing to a finger and saying, we favor so-and-so. The person who is elected and the person who is actually in that position ought to be the person leading it. So again, the question I would ask is, what is the logic behind all this, really?
In the first place.
Yes. Because the outcomes are not something secretive that you need to sort of like beat your head against the wall to understand. It's quite simple. How do you support or how do you give a role that is considered important to someone who the then sitting MP or the lead in that region is supposed to have? How do you then give it to the person who's opposing them and you think there'll be no friction?
I think the whole issue here is, do we want BBI to pass? If we want BBI to pass, then we need to review our strategy.
Or do we want BBI to fail?
And how we are going then to sell it to the people. Because at some point he's even inferring and saying, it's possible that this thing will, be pushed through and it will pass. Okay? But it will have left a very fractured Mount Kenya. That's what is the main fear here. That if we don't have a united front on how we are selling BBI to the ground, we're going to lose it. But I think the whole thing is very good because it's exposing what's happening on the ground. That letter by the senator is actually... The other question is, so he wrote this letter, so who leaked the letter and why?
Yeah, and why?
Yeah, and at what,
In whose hands did the letter get into that it shouldn't have?
Was it designed so that it can also become...
Get into certain hands,
the whole conversation
eyes.
gets here. So we're talking about it this way. And then it brings out the focus into, okay, so what's happening? What are we doing in the BBI?
It's like the secret that is shared between you and your 10 best friends.
Yes.
And each sworn...
And you've sworn each person to
secrecy. They will also choose their 10 best friends and swear them to secrecy
as well.
Yes.
But if you think about the people who've been sent this, so the letter has been sent to the party leader through the Secretary General. It has been copied to the majority leader in the Senate, the chairman of the party, and the National Executive Committee of the Jubilee Party. Those are many people.
Somebody was bound to say something.
Yeah, come on.
Somebody was bound to say something.
Yeah. It's even possible that the senator himself could have, also BCC'd other people. But it comes out, if you look at the number of people, surely, who have access to this letter, any of them.
But if you think about it, and we even leave this discussion aside, and you look at the side that probably the loudest, the Tangatanga group, you will find that the leader of the Tangatanga group, who is our deputy president, is more visible in these matters than the president. He is physically visible. And whether one likes it or not, people do like that personal touch when it comes to certain matters.
True.
They want to see the ultimate boss actually there and saying, this is what I think. Because when you send the people you have sent, okay, I don't want to use an adjective that may prove inappropriate, then people feel, So this person doesn't think it's important enough for him
to come and tell us.
Come and talk to us. It's okay. Yes, because on the other side, the Tangatanga side, personally, you will find the leader of the Tangatanga group there personally, making his speeches, saying his. So, and I think the senator from Murang'a brings this out and says, look, personal intervention is very important here. Yes.
You must do this as well.
You must be seen.
Yes. You must be
Not
seen.
just heard, seen.
He also talks about the Nairobi gubernatorial seat. He says, look, if we go into an election, in the by-election for Nairobi governor, and we're looking at the kind of candidates that have fronted themselves in the Jubilee, and look at the candidates who are fronting themselves in the opposition, we're likely to lose. And this is going to have far-reaching implications as well on the Jubilee party if you lose such a key seat as Nairobi. And then it goes to people who are not really aligned to what we are doing as Jubilee, then spells danger.
Interesting, isn't it? Though he has opened a discussion that I'd like us to look at maybe at a later date. These losses, as we call them, do they really affect the national picture in the long run? But this is a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
Or these losses, or these gains, should I say. Do they really affect?
Do they really affect?
Yes. A discussion for another day.
All right. It's 6:45. Time for us to take a quick break again, and then we come back and look at more headlines.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done
All right.
right.
6:47.
94.4 Spice FM,
So,
Nairobi.
There is now a principal secretary in the Ministry of Lands, and his name is Nicholas Muraguri. He served in the health ministry when a certain 6 tons of vaccines that have since expired were brought into the country, and he said he was not to blame for this. Okay? Now, let me give you details of that. The pentavalent vaccine was brought into the country in 2017, but expired the following year at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport because authorities failed to clear the cargo. Mr. Moruguri left the Ministry of Health in April 2017 for lands, 2 months after the drugs were shipped to the country. I sincerely cannot remember why the payment was not done by the time I was leaving, but the only reason it could have been not paid for is because the payment was not ready when I was leaving. Now, this has all come about because, there are questions being asked about how there's this large cargo at JKIA and why the payment has not been done and the reasons as to why it has not left. Now, Muraguri's exit in April came after his exit came in Julius Courier, who said he was not aware of anything about the vaccines. Courier left the ministry in February 2018 after he was appointed the PS in the Department of Infrastructure, Ministry of Transport. He's now the PS State Department for Youth. For 2 financial years when he was in the Health Ministry, Courier failed to effect the payment of the same said vaccines. Now, when asked whether he had received any communication from a Signian company which had been contacted to handle the clearance of the consignment on the vaccines, Courier said he left the ministry a long time ago and could not remember anything that had hanged up the call. So there's this problem. The PS says he had nothing to do with it, or rather, he did not know what had happened. This is a problem because 6.1 tons of the dose of the pentavalent vaccine worth 180 million shillings in February 2017 had not been cleared from the ministry and had not been paid for. They had been at the JKIA Swissport for 3 years, but expired in 2018 because authorities failed to clear the cargo. It was donated by the Serum Institute India and is currently in the country's immunization program. It prevents 5 major diseases: Haemophilus influenza type B, this is the bacteria that causes meningitis, pneumonia, and ear infections; diphtheria, whooping cough; hepatitis B, tetanus, and other ailments. The vaccines were to help protect women and children from 5 deadly diseases. However, with the expiry, it means that millions of mothers miss the chance to be protected.
What is of interest is that WHO and UNICEF have both endorsed this particular vaccine for the longest time.
Yep.
And its success rate is unparalleled. However, if you read what has been reported, when the vaccine came in, it had an expiry date of a year before it expired. So essentially we are saying that these drugs remained in storage at Europort.
Long after even the expiry.
Yes. So you're wondering, wait.
There's a story also beyond that. These vaccines were a donation.
Yes, they were. So where does payment come in?
It comes into the clearance. You see, the donation was from this company in India. All right? They did not donate flights. So there's now something for shipping. So you have to pay for shipping, you've got to pay for clearance. The company that has handled the shipping is the one that is basically asking for his 180 million shillings, saying, we handled the logistics for it. That's our business. We do logistics. We've done it. We've brought it here. So pay, clear, take your goods.
Or better still, it's government after all. What stops the government from negotiating? I mean, saying, folks, we have 20%. Can we...
The other question is this donation and how. Maybe it's the whole mindset of the donation. Maybe there's a story there. Had we requested for donation? Was the donation given to us in good faith? Was there some people in the ministry who felt, wait, so we've been given medicine here or vaccines, they've been donated to us, they are valid for a year. Are we going to be able to, basically, if we spend 180 million or whatever, this money to clear the vaccine, are we going to be able to distribute this within a year? Do we want to spend... Very many questions here. And if you look at all these PSs, none of them seems to remember anything about this vaccine. It appears it's one of those things that just comes and goes. It hasn't even got into the PS's desk to a level where it's...
How many want to take responsibility?
Very convenient amnesia. How many tons of it was it?
6.1 tons. Come on. It's not like a few grains that you're throwing in the corner somewhere.
You know that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It's not something that you can walk past and not notice.
Not only that, the importance of such a vaccine and the impact it has.
5 major diseases that ravage the country.
Did we have a shortage of vaccine at that time? We didn't. No reported shortage at that time. So it's not really so it was an emergency.
But Eric, they never report shortages of vaccines.
But you'll hear about it. Because children will be going for vaccination. It'll come out.
You see, the thing is, the vaccinations that children go for the specific ones, not necessarily the 5-in-1. The 5-in-1 is supposed to take care of all the others. Now, where the debate comes in my opinion, all the other individual and singular vaccines that are brought in, we buy. They're not donated. So this now provided competition. So do you see it actually hitting the market?
There was a whole long game here, even from the person who was donating these vaccines.
Goodness gracious me. So what
was the the underlying story here?
What was the underlying story? What was the
You have donated 6 tons of vaccines to this country. Why?
Why have you given in the first place?
Yeah, why? Is this part of your CSR? Is this...
Who had you discussed this with?
Yeah.
Who had you agreed with? Who
had they applied? Had they told you, guys, now that you make these things,
or was it the Indian government who had decided to give it? Actually, there's a lot missing from this story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
This whole issue of... And now the way it's come out and it's been blown, this also... This was 2017. It's coming out now at the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021. This is story. It's becoming big. We follow up with the PSs. Who was in charge?
What do you think is happening? We're being moved further and further away from KEMSA.
There is a narrative here about this particular vaccine. This is about competition, business competition. That's how I see it.
And somebody seems to be gunning for one Muragure.
Muragure is not the issue. It is the Ministry of Health.
You know why?
Are you going to give us business, or do we continue muddying the waters for you?
That's an interesting point, Eric. Exactly. Yes. And which means that as they bring in new things, we can expect that other scandals that we've never heard of will come up. And good.
There are many that we don't hear about.
Oh, there are very many.
Yes.
And yet, even as they're taken to those backwaters that we are never aware of, KEMSA recedes further and further and further into the
into the abyss of oblivion.
Yes. Did the PPEs eventually get to the hospitals as they were supposed to?
Which one?
So remember the ones which were held in storage at KEMSA?
Doctors are back to work. They'll tell us.
They'll tell us whether they got PPEs. Everybody back to work.
No. Doctors are back to work.
Clinical officers and doctors.
Are they back?
Yes, they are. They've called
nurses?
off their strike.
And the nurses?
We haven't heard anything from the nurses.
The lab technicians?
Lab technicians? or maybe they also lab technicians want to go the few weeks that the others went before they actually go back to work.
Big stories here. Very many stories. There's a man who's been fighting for his inheritance to some cool estate for 24 years. And this story has now been given some nice coverage on page 12 and page 13 of the Standard this morning. The gentleman's name is Charles Wanjohi. There's a time when it had been covered and now he appeared in court. So it happens this way. So there's one man who was quite rich and his name was Wadhuku. Mr. Wadhuku, what's his other name? Wadhuku Ngure. Wadhuku Ngure died in 1996, and by the time he was dying, he had some pieces of land all over. He had land in Nyeri, he had land in shops in Nyeri, plots in Gakendo, vehicles, coffee factory. He had some millions of cash in his bank account. The man, however, had married 2 wives, and none of them had, formally married 2 wives, none of them had a child. But then there was this one young man who grew up knowing that he is the son to Mr. Wadhuku. And the family also acknowledges that, yes, this young man's mother was one of Mr. Wadhuku's many girlfriends, but they dispute the fact that he is biological son to Mr. Wadhuku. But now the man himself, this is Mr. Charles Wanjohi, has been going to court because he wants to be recognized as an heir to Mr. Wadhuku, who died. But Wadhuku's brothers are the ones who are not in this story. So the man died in 1996. Wanjohi put a court injunction, so the man was not buried until February 1997. The man has been in court all these years. He's basically saying, I deserve to be recognized in this. The number of judges who've listened to this story over those 24 years are many. I'm just going to count. Okay, let me just read the names. The man from Otieno Odek, Al Nashir Visram, Martha Koome, Emwana Lokubasu, Erastus Gedenji, Onyango Juma, Philip Tunoi, Asikile Mahandia, Riaga Omolo, Patrick Kiage, Roslyn Nambuye, Philip Waki, Hannah Okwengu, Moijo Lekewa, Joseph Nyamu, Samuel Buzire, Sankala Olenkantai, Agnes Murgo, Kathurima Minoti, Vitalis Juma, David Maraga. All these judges have at one point dealt with this particular case. 24 years, 2 billion shillings in inheritance.
Okay. There was a time when Brexit was all the news.
Yes.
And we know what happened. The UK got their wish, and they were at last parted. However, there appears to be a silver lining, as is reported, for Kenyans with regard to this exit. Headlines on the Business Daily: UK gives work permit to non-graduate Kenyans. Now, the threshold for employment within the EU was a degree, similar to the threshold for being MP in this country. But the UK has lowered it to Form 6 or the equivalent. Now, this is the interesting thing for Kenyans, right? Highly skilled Kenyans without degree qualifications will from today, access work permit for employment in Britain under new immigration rules that follow the UK agreeing a deal to exit the European Union. All right? Now, the people whom they will consider and the people who will be prioritized under this particular scheme will be professionals in the IT, accountancy, plumbing, and electrical works. Now, it means that if you're a Kenyan and you have some of these qualifications, there are people who emigrate to the UK to look for jobs.
Yeah.
But you stand a chance of actually getting work there. Now, for the longest time, we know people who are in the medical field have been going to the UK and other Western countries to get jobs. So, whether it is nurses, whether it is medical doctors, whether it's engineers, we have had Kenyans emigrating to all parts of the world. But now the UK has formally opened those particular doors and said, because of this Brexit, and of course, you see, what happens is the moment you move out of Brexit, it means that what the other European countries were able to enjoy in the UK, they now can no longer enjoy.
Yeah.
So there will be a gap. And that gap is being opened to us lovely Kenyans.
So we can take advantage of very many of the things.
Yes, we can. Yes.
So even the deal that was signed between the UK and Kenya, looking at post-Brexit and how then we can access the UK market. So basically, we can look at it in terms of windfall.
For us it is, because it doesn't stop us from working with the UK, with the EU either.
Yep.
No.
Nothing stops us from
For
working
us it's
with
a
the EU.
win-win.
It's win. This is all it is.
That being Kenyan is a good thing.
But then, so you can easily apply for work permit and go and work there. But we also expect that this is where now the government would come in, the Ministry of Labour and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Work with UK companies and look at what kind of labour needs do you have, and can we work and bring you these people?
Yes. You see, the new UK work permit rules, okay? Now, this is something that they brought into being in 2016, all right? The year that the UK voted to exit Brexit, okay? However, previously, the visa rules were priority given to EU members. Now, that has been removed. Everyone is on an equal footing. And what isn't being said is that if you belong to the Commonwealth, of course, the issue of the Commonwealth will be considered. And we belong to the Commonwealth.
Yeah. Again, I say, can you imagine if actually this information was now being done very nicely by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Labour and the others, and seeing we have a database here of Kenyans who are looking for jobs and they have these kind of qualifications, and we can actually start positioning them with companies in the UK that are looking for this kind of labour. What benefit would we be able to get from that?
Actually, let me
knowing how much we get out of this.
Yes. If I may quote directly the UK.
Do that when we come out of this quick break, because we are going to the top of the hour. Let's get to the top of the hour. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's a Situation Room. Thank you very much for tuning in this morning, the 4th day of January 2021. We are here, we are live. In the next hour, we'll be talking to Mr. Kahindi Muli, the chairman of the School Heads Association, the secondary school heads, talking about reopening of schools. Good morning, it's 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru. Traffic.
Starting this morning already on Monday morning, major accident, head-on collision that has taken place on the Sagana-Makutano Road this morning. If you're headed in that direction, coming to or from that area, you need to be extremely careful. There's a major one that is happening, that has happened this morning, and waiting for police to get on the scene to be able to help to sort that out. It's very slow. Right around Muthaiga, getting towards the city centre this morning. Thika Road is building up quite some this morning, moving extremely slowly. Okay, let's go back to that Sagana Road area, and we've already reported a couple of fatalities this morning because of that accident. Folks moving in and out of Nairobi and onwards, so please be extremely careful. Mombasa Road is also moving very slowly. This is just between the SGR and Cabanas. Thereafter towards General Motors, you should be fine getting out then towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. Uru Highway moving slowly as well. Coming off of Langata Road, coming off of Gong Road, not too bad as you get to the various roundabouts and then out into the city centre. Let's take a look in a short while and see how that may have changed. We're asking everybody to be extremely careful. Talk to us on Spice FMKE on Twitter or text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start.
2.5 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We thank you very much for tuning in this morning. We're back and we'll be here each and every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. As we begin the hour, CT, what is today's proverb?
If you marry a monkey for its wealth, The money goes and the monkey remains.
Why can't you just deal with the monkey? It's Egyptians.
Why can't you just deal with the money?
You are marrying the monkey for its wealth, right?
Yes.
So, and what do you want more? You want the wealth, not the monkey.
Actually, in this
after
case,
the monkey has come to the house, why not just deal with how the monkey can live? And so you.
Well, if the money goes, the monkey remains. What do? Do you also remain?
You are in trouble. It's the whole point here. That you are hoping that because you're marrying this monkey, you'd be able to enjoy its wealth. Then the money goes, and you're left here with your very ugly monkey.
Monkeys aren't as ugly as we human beings are. Can you imagine what a monkey sees when they look at us?
Well,
look at these huge, ugly, gangly things. They aren't even consistent. Look at their hair.
So it's reciprocated. Same way we consider them. That's why the whole thing is just talking about if you marry a monkey. Why didn't they come up with it?
If we're going to use the word ugly, then we're going to say ugly meets ugly. Draw.
From whichever side you look at it,
ugly
right?
meets ugly. Draw.
Okay. So let's talk about schools reopening then, Ndu.
All right, let's. Again, we're looking at big, high numbers of students going back to school from today. And then into the week, by the end of the week, we're looking at an additional 15 million students around the country going back to school. And met with a lot of mixed reactions. This was the plan from 2 months ago, when the candidates went back to school in October. And then after that, there was talk of when this would happen. And then finally, we knew that January 4th was going to be the day when everybody went back to school amidst, all that's happening with COVID-19. There are very many things that have gone on since then. Desks were said to have been constructed and then handed over to schools. Masks to or not to be provided by government. And issues of school fees that parents are not able to afford anymore because of COVID-19 and how this has affected jobs and how it has affected businesses. Certain schools having shut down because they were not able to continue. Then seeing an influx of new students into the public school system who were previously in the private system. So many things going on at the same time. That notwithstanding, today is the 4th of January and everybody goes back to school regardless of what the conditions may be. We heard certain things yesterday from, allow students into school even if they don't have the school fees at this point. It'll happen. But at the same time, on the other end, is that let these then actually be genuine cases. Otherwise, you'll have everybody coming into school and not being able to handle it. I don't think we're right now having this conversation on whether it's right or wrong to open school. School is open. It's dealing with it now from there and how it's going to happen. And I think that's the conversation that we're having today. Being able to handle now everything that we are being faced with. How then are we going to be able to go through the next 3 months with these measures in place if everything has been done that needs to be done, and how we're going to be able to carry that out? Okay.
Sometimes I think we treat this thing from very academic lenses. We sit back and you're like, so are we prepared? How ready are we? What are we going to do for the next 3 months, and how are children going to survive in this new environment? But if you just look at how people have behaved and the practicality of how we have behaved ourselves throughout this period, just look at the last 1 month, for example, of festivities, from people traveling across the country. We've seen clips from all across the country, people at the public beach in Mombasa, people in public places. Look at the parents and the children who are going for shopping in various, shopping centers across the country, looking for books, looking for uniforms, looking for shoes and all other manner of shopping. They're going with their children, and children are not wearing masks. The parents are not wearing masks. That tells you these parents go out and they don't wear masks, and they come back home to the same kids. If this is how we behave, how do we expect that it's going to be any different? Why are we trying to now look at it and position it like it's going to be a very different idea here, that we're talking about children going to school, so we're exposing them to these other dangers? Really? Anything
there shouldn't even be a demand. There shouldn't really be then a demand on institutions to say you must do this, that, the other thing to make sure that children are safe, because we also
honestly no.
We also at home are not even taking care. So let's just, deep end, throw everybody in, let's just go.
Live the way we are living is how we should expect things to go. All right. If you're not demanding that your own home, children are going to be washing their hands every 15 minutes or so long, if you're not demanding that in your own home, you're going to be observing physical distancing and social distancing, you're going to welcome all your guests to come home and enjoy this nyamachoma for Christmas, why are you starting to demand that a school headmaster must make sure that the children are wearing masks throughout the day? At what point do you then now start pointing fingers and saying, if Magoha does not ensure that children have masks, we should not take our children to school? Have you given your children masks?
Eric, please, I need you to be a little patient here, a little gentle as you approach this matter. This is a national matter. Remember that one of the things that we all participate in wholeheartedly as Kenyans is duplicity and hypocrisy. Yes, it is a national activity that we undertake with the same vigor as we undertake voting and as we undertake political discussions. So we say one thing, do the complete opposite.
But in somebody else's job, we expect them to do it.
And also we then assign jobs that, without job descriptions, and we demand them with a lot of vigor. So as we participate in this national hypocrisy and doublespeak that we are used to, please allow us to do so quietly, without too much complaint. We will complain if there are no masks in schools. We will complain if there's no
water.
We are going to complain.
Oh, sure, be ready for it.
And we will, if I may use the term, this is it's an English term that is inappropriate, but it gets the heart of the matter. We will bitch about it. But so be it. And then we will blame the government, and then we'll blame every other agency associated. We'll start with NAT. We'll start with the Kenya... goodness, what are they called?
Which one?
TSC.
Yes.
Yes. And then we'll even bring it to the Headmasters Association.
Bas.
What have they done?
What are these that the headmasters have been doing?
What have they been doing? Because the dance around the schools.
Do they know how to manage schools?
Have they sent the sort of protest letter that we've seen Kangata sending to the ministry and to every other official to complain about these things, about we will do this? It's how we go about our business. Yes, it's Kenyans. We may not know this, but we've institutionalized it. It's the way we handle our business. We complain really loudly and very long. And then we get prescriptive. This should have been done. This should have been done. Why has this not been done? This must be done. As to who ought to do it, usually that you think about is a government.
It's a government. It's the other person. Let's bring in the head of the Secondary School Heads Association, Mr. Kahin Dimuli. He joins us now on the line. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. Now, Mr. Indimuli, the school heads have a daunting task from this morning for the next 3 months, at least for the first term of 2021, because we are talking about schools reopening this morning. We are talking about children going back to school, millions of learners, 15 million going to school from, all the way from the earliest learners to colleges and universities and tertiary institutions. Many of them will be coming to the secondary schools. Many of them, some will be in boarding, others will be in day schools. But if we look at what the protocols have been written by the government and the measures that the schools then were expected to put in place, that is the school heads working with your BOMs and everything else on what should have been done, would you say that the school heads, for example, are ready and prepared to welcome all the learners back to school today?
Thank you. That is a very challenging question because it would mean we have to look at various aspects for us to say that we are 100% the way people would expect prepared to reopen. But to some considerable percentage, I would say that schools are ready to open. There will be challenges which we are aware of, and we've been discussing them with the government and borrowing from experiences that when we had the Form 4, Class 8, and Grade 4 students in school, there were certain challenges that we noticed that we are learning from to be able to get ready for the larger number of classes. The biggest challenge here was funding of schools early enough so that the school management can provide what is required, especially preparations of hand washing points, which have to be many based on the number of students that you have, provision of soap, ensuring that you have at least a spare mask with you in school, because we cannot expect that all the children coming will be having masks. I remember for our situation when the Form 4s were here, we had just to have available masks for them. Those who did not have, and even in the course of term, they had to go into the sanatorium to replenish because they didn't have the rewashable masks. And those who had the rewashable masks, we had to ensure that they are also washing them and washing them well. So to some considerable extent, we are ready to reopen. As the minister said, and this is something that we all have mentioned as head, that the challenge of social distance, the way it is perceived, for now, it may not be achievable in our institution at this point in time. Maybe over a period of years, a number of years, when government continues to avail funds that can help school management put up infrastructure, this may be attained with time. But at this point that we are opening now, that is something that we have to look for ways of mitigating. For example, the use of space, as it has been advised. Others have put up some tents in which they can offload the excess numbers. Others will use dining halls and the open field. For boarding institution, the challenge would be in the dormitories. But we want to believe that within the first 14 days, we would be able to ascertain whether there is a big challenge in our institutions or we can move. 14 for those in the boarding schools, because we assume within 14 days the incubation period of the virus, it will have started manifesting itself in the institution, and school management can take measures. If it means having to isolate and close that school, then that kind of action would be taken. But we have to open, because it's only when we open and the children are in schools that we can realize the magnitude of the challenge, if the challenge is there, or there is no challenge and we move on. But if we stay back and say we must first wait for the virus to go down, we don't know when it will go, we must first put up all the required infrastructure, that would be absolute. We may not attain it, and therefore we may be losing a lot of students. If you look at the data that government gave when grade 4, class 8, and Form 4 came, not all students came back to school. And there were thousands of students, and that's why it led to the narrative that the Ngao system, the national government agency system, will have to be activated to comb the villages and estates to ensure that the children go to school. Because the question is, these students who did not turn up for grade 8, 4, and Form 4, where were they? Did they remain at home because the parents wanted them to be at home? Or have they given up schooling? So those are the questions that we need to ask. And at the same time, we need to realize with a bigger number, the more they stay at home, the likelihood of us going to lose many more. And the effect of them being lost will not be realized today, but in a few years to come.
Mr. Ndimule, even before COVID, I mean, especially if we're looking at the public system, there was still full to capacity. They were full to capacity at that point, right? Whereby you're already saying that infrastructure was necessary to then increase the space that you have so that more children can go to school, right? Then come COVID, a number of private schools have been closed, and we heard directly from the CS that, look, public school in this country is free, you know, with underlined. So with an already full system, here we are, and we know that quite a number of private schools were closed. Quite a number of students who were in the private school system will then transfer to the public school system. That alone, in terms of an increase of numbers, less even if we can put COVID aside in terms of infections, but in terms of numbers now, will schools be able to handle the increase of numbers? Because that is something that's there. It's an issue. Will we be able to do that? Social distancing aside, we're increasing the numbers as it is. Will we be able to deal with that?
Okay, first of all, let us look at the picture, because sometimes when it is reported, it may look so, how do we say, so
more bigger than it actually is.
Yes, it actually is.
Yeah.
I checked with my colleague, the chairperson of private schools, and examination. I mean, the number of students in those schools is 3.3 million students. Yeah. And out of that, only 52,000 students will be affected by the closure, which is about 0.9% of the number of schools in private schools. So 52,000 is, I would say, a very decimal number that would make the whole situation look gloom.
Okay.
You see?
Okay.
Yeah, so the situation may not be as big as it is being portrayed. 52,000 distributed across the 9,000 plus secondary schools and the over 23,000 primary schools. I think that is a number that can be managed. The only problem is we parents tend to be very particular on which schools we want our children to go. And when we now choose schools, then we stretch those schools. Yeah? And that is why we are saying, as the Heads Association, yes, government has a responsibility of ensuring all its children go to school, and therefore those who cannot go to the private schools definitely have to go to the public schools. But we are saying that it will not just be a walk in the park in those public schools. It will follow procedure, because there are procedures of transfer of students from one institution to the other, or from one region to the other. Because we must also take care of those parents who may just want to move a child from a private school to a public school because maybe of financial obligation on the other side has skyrocketed, and therefore wishing to go to the public school where it is cheaper. So it will not just be, yes, government has said take in the students, we will take them in. It will have to follow procedure and clearances too.
But Mr. Indimuli, even if we look at now just the public schools and how they've been operating, let's look at the boarding schools. And you even mentioned this and intimated on it. When it comes to learning, it's possible for you to look at, okay, we can take some children to the dining halls. We can even use some schools have put up tents, you said. But in terms of dormitories, many schools already were full in dormitories. There was an issue of congestion in some schools in dormitories. How are we going to still observe physical distancing in this? Is it creation of extra dorms? Is it putting up tents that children can now sleep in tents? How is this being addressed?
Well, that one, as I said earlier, that would be our biggest challenge, especially my colleagues who are running boarding schools. That is going to be a bigger problem. We may not say that we are putting up tents, because putting children in tents also has its own challenge.
Yep.
The children will have to be in the dormitories. We may convert some classrooms, we would call them mobile dorms, so that during the day they are in class learning, and during the night they can use the same facility to sleep. There is a challenge. We must appreciate that. And as the children come to school, I want to tell the parents there could be a challenge in that area. but I'm sure.
But the question I want to ask, though, is all this time, since the reopening of grade 4s, class 8 and form 4, up to now, up to yesterday's meeting, was there no plan that was actually discussed on exactly how you can advise the school heads to manage the issue of dormitories?
No, the advice on the issue of dormitories is there. And that's why I've mentioned some slight areas. Of course, the issue of tents was discussed in the COVID-19 National Education Response Committee, that schools could use dormitories, tents. The issue of use of dining halls could be refabricated in a manner to take up more children as a dormitory, so that the children can eat outside the dining hall. Assembly halls, if the schools have such halls, they could also, for now, do their assemblies in the open field and convert those into dormitories. So at this point, each and every school management, board of management, and the principals and the teachers therein will have to make decisions on which facilities that they feel can be converted into a dormitory, and whatever it was meant for be done elsewhere.
So the decision is going to be made now when the schools are reopening, or have those decisions been made? What I'm asking here is, you're sending your child back to school, and there's a specific school that they're going back to. Do you know that your child then is going to, for the next 3 months or so, is going to be sleeping either in a dormitory with reduced numbers, and the others will spill over into, this school has a large assembly hall, they'll use the assembly hall. Is that already in place, or are these decisions that are just being made on the go by the school heads and BOMs?
No. Remember, the date of 4th was given some time, was agreed some time back.
Yes.
And therefore, school management, the boards and the heads have definitely been meeting, including parents' associations of particular schools, so that they are able to make decisions. In a school where a dining hall will be used for as a dormitory, definitely that decision has already been taken. Even which students will move there, that decision has already been taken. It's not going to be taken as the children come in now. It has already been taken in various schools. And as I said, this entirely depends now on the individual schools with the facilities that they have. What the meetings and the directive from Ministry of Education did indicate was that schools should be innovative enough to look at what facilities they have that can be converted into either classrooms or dormitories, so that what it was meant for can be suspended. And examples were given, like assembly halls, dining halls. There are chapels in some of our institutions that for now can be converted into dormitories. And then also tents for dormitories that would be another higher thinking in case of us not being able to get any other extra rooms. Because tents have their own challenge when it comes to issues of sleeping, and particularly with the children and the cold nights. So those may not really be thought of as dormitories, but they can be thought of for use as classrooms.
So we see a lot of overlapping here, spilling over in terms of what will be used at a certain part of the day for an assembly hall or classroom, and then at night being, then used for a sleeping area. And this can or should or might be right? And I think we've passed, Mr. Ndimuli, the stage of us saying that, are we going back to school? Should we open? I think we are past that now. We're already...
we are past that.
Yeah, we're past that because schools are open and children are going back to school. Learners are going back to school. But then in terms of even if it is said that society will always complain and everybody's going to look for where to stick it to whether it's government or administrations, everybody will always find that. But at the same time, I think it's important in terms of giving assurances that we can be sure that everybody's on the same page, or at least in terms of action, making sure that this is protocol that will be followed. This is something that will be done, and also understanding that every institution is not the same, that everybody will then make do with what they have. But in terms of assurances to say that everybody's on the same page in terms of what should be done or actions that should be carried out, can we say categorically that, yes, across board, this is what is running?
Yes, I would say we have been effectively guided. I remember last week, from the other weeks, we've been having various online training. I remember in our own sub-county, we had to attend an online training on how to, what should be done, how to handle students in case there are issues. And this has been going on across the country. So we want to believe that we are all on the same page. Schools have been encouraged to strengthen their COVID-19 response committees and maintain what we would call a structured engagement. Because one thing that schools were expected to do even before the Class 8, Form 4s and Grade 4s came back to school was to put up the COVID-19 response committees within the schools. So now we are expected to strengthen them, activate them more, and I believe this was done by all schools. So by and large, I want to believe that we are all on the same page. Other challenges notwithstanding,
right?
School facilities varying from school A to school B, those variations are always there and will be there. And that's why I was saying that decision on where what to use as to support the social distancing issue will depend on the school's available facilities. Some may not have a problem, especially those with smaller numbers of students, and especially day schools may not have really a big problem because their numbers are lower. The challenge would be on our bigger schools that have large populations, 1,000 plus students, up to 2,200 as our largest school. That is where the challenge is may be. But I want to believe the management in those schools have already identified what they are going to do. But let us understand, and I want to encourage parents that, yes, this challenge will be there, but this is a collective responsibility for all of us.
Take a break at this point. Let's take a break at this point. We're speaking with Kahi Ndimuli. He is the chairman of the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association, and we are talking about schools reopening today, the measures that have been put in place by school heads and administrations of the schools, a number of challenges that he has talked about with what we saw with the reopening of Form 4, Standard 8 and Grade 4 earlier. And when we come back, we'll be looking at how those have been addressed. Also, what exactly it is that we expect to see as challenges this time and going forward, and having that whole conversation. If you'd like to ask a question to the School Heads Association head, please call us in 0719-012-600. It's 7:30. Let's look at the weather and traffic, and then we'll have the conversation some more.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year?
how much inconvenience they are causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, we're looking at mostly clear conditions in Nairobi at 17. We'll go to highs of 26 today. That'll be the high in Nakuru as well. Currently sunny conditions at 16. It's cloudy in Nyeri at 12, highs of 26 and lows of 11. 8 degrees and mostly cloudy in Eldoret this morning. Going to highs of 24. 26 will be the high in Kisumu today. Clear conditions at 18 at the moment. That rain that came in the early morning seems to have cleared away. It's also clear in Kakamega at 18, highs of 28 and lows of 14. 25 degrees and light rain in Mombasa, certain parts this morning at least, highs of 31. 25 will be the high in Malindi. Currently clear conditions at 18. We're looking at light rain in Kampala this morning at 21. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 19. Sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam at 24. Highs of 32. 23 the high in Johannesburg. 16 degrees and sunny at the moment. Mostly clear conditions in Lagos, dropping slightly at 26. Highs of 32 and then coming down to lows of 25. We're going to see Kinshasa, mostly cloudy at 24 with highs of 29 and lows of 23.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
So there's absolutely no traffic on Mombasa Road. That's between Green Park and then Athi River towards Syokimau. However, once you get to the SGR, it's going to clog up some. And then all the way to General Motors. Thika Road is bumper to bumper, moving very slowly this morning out towards the CBD inbound. And to the CBD is quite the one. Outbound on Thika Road, however, not so bad. Outbound on Mombasa Road is where we see the problem. In and out on Ngong Road as well as Langata Road is looking pretty good as well. We had that terrible accident right at Sagana this morning, and it is fatal. Quite a number of people had a problem this morning, so please be extremely careful. Another one on Juja Road this morning as well. If you headed that direction, there was an accident there, and it's quite an ugly one. So please be careful, guys, as we try to get out in this madness on Monday. Spice of MKE on Twitter. That's how you can reach us. Text us as well. 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
It's 25 to 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's a Situation Room broadcasting in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, and worldwide on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as www.spicefm.co.ke. Joining us for the conversation this hour is Mr. Kai Ndimuli. He is the chairman of the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association. We're talking about the reopening of schools. In the studio this morning is Eric Latif Nduoko, C.T. Muga.
Mr. Ndimuli, thank you for being with us. I understand clearly that the circumstances that we're dealing with are not easy and there's no simple or straightforward solution to it. But would I be correct then in saying that everything around COVID and going back to school, parents, the board of management, the community within which those schools exist are being told that you are actually on your own? Would I be correct in coming to this conclusion?
No. You would not be correct in saying that. You are on your own. Who has left you to be on your own? As I was saying, this is a collective responsibility that involves all of us: parents, teachers, school management, and government. And all of us have to work together. And that is why we have what we would call the counties and sub-counties coordinating committees, which brings together health officers, Ministry of Education, Teacher Service Commission officer, school heads, in all the time discussing and finding out what would be happening. Schools also will continue to engage with the parents and guardians to build confidence about COVID-19. So I would not say that we have been left on our own. I think it is we are all together in this. What remains is communication, effective coordination between schools in terms of information that they get, challenges they find, sharing them so that we can all benefit from the good best practices that are being done in one institution or the other. So this is not something that we will remain in our own cocoons as schools, but it is something that we must be open to each other through those coordination committees. And that is why you have seen that the government has put a central coordination committee that has brought together people from all ministries, Ministry of Water, Health, Ministry of Interior, and Ministry of Education at the top as a central coordinating agency, which trickles down with the same number of people, the same ministries coming together all the way up to the county level. And of course, the county governments coming in. And that's why we also have the Council of Governors into that coordination team. So I want to assure the general public that nobody is being left on his or her own, but we must work together through those coordinating committees.
Sure. The issue of school fees has come up and quite worrying for a number of parents. We understand even in the public system, there is money that parents still have to pay. So whether we're looking at private or public, this comes across. And the rider that came from the Ministry of Education yesterday, Mr. Ndimuli, was that, we don't want any students to be turned away because of school fees, understanding the situation across the country economically. But the rider then was that we were going to look at this case by case, and only critical cases then would be taken into consideration. How do you see this working out for parents who come and genuinely don't have the very little that they may be asked, if that is what it can be deemed as, or as the very much that would be required of them to pay, and that don't have? Would it be looked at as a global now meaning the whole country, and say, look, allow them to come back to school and let them have agreements with schools as to how they can pay? How do we deal with this very sensitive yet important issue?
Thank you very much. First, I would want to say that for secondary schools, we have what we would call the free day secondary school, which government gives capitation of about 22,000 per child per year. Any other payment that is made is for the upkeep of the children. It is for feeding those children and keeping them in school, particularly in boarding schools, and maybe some small figure for provision of lunch in day school. So what we are saying here is these schools, and I want the whole nation to understand that principals play a very big role in really knowing the children that deserve support, and they have been supported over the years to go through schools. With this pandemic, definitely we do not want a situation in which we will lock out any child. I don't think that as principals is not in our interest. We would wish our children to be in school. But what we are saying is parents too have an obligation. It is not fair to say we will send children to school and we expect the children will be managed in school when there are no funds. And that is why we want to encourage all parents to try their level best to at least pay something for upkeep. Where there are challenges, my colleagues and I are always willing to listen. And we look at past records, how it has been. We will listen to what challenges that a parent has gone through during this period of COVID. And I'm sure we are responsible enough to make very good decisions. We are aware that we have children from vulnerable backgrounds, and these children, many of them are on sponsorship. We have those who are on the Edu scholarship given by the Ministry of Education. We have those who are on other scholarships like Equity Bank, KCB Bank, Cooperative Bank, and other sponsors. This we have data of those children in our schools. Nobody will interfere with them because we deal with the sponsor directly when it comes to issues of any payment. But for those parents who pay directly, I want to encourage them to do what is within their means to ensure that they are able to meet some percentage of what is expected. If they are totally unable to meet the entire percentage, then go to school and come up with a payment plan
with the head teachers. I'm sure these are conversations that you and your colleagues as head teachers are going to be having with a lot of parents. There are those that are traditionally indigent and they'll require continued support. There are those that are getting sponsorship from other quarters, and maybe the sponsors are now facing challenges, so they may not be able to pay. There are those that were able to pay school fees earlier, and now they may not be able to pay. So you'll have a lot of these conversations. One of the things that then would be is where you'd be able to get the support to be able to run this facility as you're having the conversations with teachers who are paying, in small installments. And this would be the money that comes from the government. One of the issues that you'd raised about was when the schools reopened briefly last year, timely disbursement of funds was identified as one of the challenges. How is that being addressed this time? By yesterday, when the ministers were addressing the nation yesterday, money had not yet been sent. It was actually being talked of being disbursed by today. If that money does not arrive, let's say by the end of this week, to schools, especially boarding schools, how is that going to impact the management and proper management of these institutions?
Yes, that timely disbursement is key, that we must accept, and we have raised it. We also raised it in the meeting on behalf of my colleagues, and half of government was there. You saw the ministers the CSs who are there.
Yep.
And we received an assurance that from Monday 4th, which is today, at least 4.6 billion will reach the school accounts in all our primary schools. And then a further 14.9 billion for public schools will be released in the course of the week. So we know the week one, we will have to do with whatever little for boarding schools the parents will have paid, and discuss with our suppliers with the hope that by the end of that week, this money will have hit our accounts. If it delays reaching the accounts, then I trust that government will be able to communicate on time to schools any challenge that would be there. This we have discussed at length with them, with everybody, all the stakeholders who are there, and yes, it has been observed that should really take place if schools have to continue doing well. It would be a challenge if this money does not hit the school accounts and delays for a month or so. It will be a challenge. But the assurance we were given yesterday, I want to trust on behalf of my colleagues that this money will be there.
You're not sounding very confident about this, Mr. Ndimuli. But, and I have to say, your job isn't an easy one. This task that you more or less have to speak positively and almost sound like a government apologist on matters where we know that from experience, the government doesn't always keep its promises.
I would say this. As a school head, you are running a government institution.
Yes.
And despite the challenge you may face, and as a chair of Heads Association, I have to support both sides. I have my colleagues and myself running these institutions and the challenges they face. This I articulate directly to government. Where the shoe is pinching, it would be irresponsible of me to lay it out in media like this. But when I'm with the minister and others, I tell them exactly how it pinches. And this, we brought it out very clearly. And that's why if you look at the minister's statement yesterday, that is the first thing he started to deal with, issues of funding. So at this point in time, now that the minister did pronounce himself yesterday on this, I would like to trust and believe that this money will be released. If you have about 9 cabinet secretaries in a meeting, including Minister of Education, the chair of the coordinating, Dr. Matiangi, and the Minister of Finance himself in that meeting, and they pronounce that this money will hit the accounts by this time. Who am I not to trust them?
You are Mr. Ndimuli. I mean,
Okay.
Indeed.
I have to trust them. If the money does not hit the accounts at the time it is given, then I go back to them and tell them, you told me on behalf of colleagues that this money will be there, and now it is not there. How do I go back now and tell my colleagues that be patient?
The issue of teachers.
Now, I will sound that defensive for both my colleagues and
the government.
Government, yes.
Issue of teachers.
Yes.
A number of them got infected, and a number of them died when schools had reopened. So it's obviously a concern for very many of them. Now we're going to have this entire population of learners back in the institutions. The exposure of teachers to COVID-19 is expected to be higher. How do you reassure them and tell them that, you can come back to work and you'll still be safe?
Yeah, very good. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to send my condolences to colleague principals and teachers who passed away during this COVID-19 period. We've been away, and even after the students had opened, it was painful to lose them. But we trust that we are not going to lose any more of them. But what we did discuss on this was the issue of insurance of teachers. And we were assured by the CEO TSC, who was in the same meeting, that the insurance cover by the employer through AON and NHIF should be able to cover up to COVID-related cases. This was said. What we only need to ensure that is happening is that the service provider actually does what the employer has clearly stated to its employees that will be done. Sometimes some of these agreements the employer has done, which are very good for the teachers, the problem is the service provider end up letting the whole system down. So we want to call upon those in NHIF and those in AON to really do what they have agreed with the employer they are going to do for the teachers in case we have cases of COVID-19. And even apart from cases of COVID-19, when the teacher is feeling unwell and has to seek medical service, the service provider should do it and do it to the letter, the way the agreement has been signed. So the only thing I can tell my colleagues is that this was discussed and an assurance was given that we shall be covered even for COVID-19 cases. For issues of students who may fall sick too, Edu-Afia, which is also handled by NHIF through the Ministry of Education. We were told by the PS, Ministry of Basic Education, Ministry of Education, Dr. Belio Kipsang, State Department of Basic Education, that they will be covered too. Because that Edu-Afia program has been there, it has been running, but now with the COVID cases, we need an assurance that this will be done. Some schools too have a kind of sanatorium within the schools, which parents have been supporting. They will continue doing that, but should their case go higher, then they attach to a medical facility for children to be handled.
Okay.
So we only hope that the service providers will play their role.
Mr.
That is the
Ndibuli,
only thing I can say.
one question that I'd like to ask before we sort of call it a day on this discussion, among many discussions we hope to have with you, is what do you do in situations where the parents cannot and absolutely pay the fees, and yet the children are not on any bursary or any form of support? What do you do?
At this point, I would like to tell the general public, this is something the general public may have known or may not have known, and sometimes the media does not highlight this. Many schools run a support system for the children who are totally unable to pay fees. Many of our schools, many board of management, many principals have identified the vulnerable children who cannot pay fees at all. And they have managed to work with them through their 4 years up to Form 4. And that's why I was saying that we have data of those children that cannot manage to pay fees and they are not on any sponsorship. Schools run some sponsorship program, either through alumni or parents and the teachers of that school have come up with a kitty, or school just decides this one cannot pay, he's disciplined, he does very well in class, he's from a vulnerable home, let's support him. And the child walks through 4 years and goes out. This happens. Unfortunately, it is never highlighted. So nobody knows that schools and principals also are human. The problem is as principals, we are only looked at people who are only demanding money to run school.
And sending kids home.
Maybe that information should be made public, because if this is being done, also maybe the communication arm of that area where this is happening then should be made out, because what we hear, like Eric said, what we hear is when students are sent back home, it's made very public. What we hear is that you will not be able to sit exams if you've not paid the balance of your fees. That's what you hear. And how is that made very public? But this other arm where people are being helped is not made public at all. It seems to be something done.
You see, how it is made public is because when I send your child home, you are the first one to cry wolf.
In this case, it's not wolf. It's a reality.
It's no wolf. But personally, when I'm supporting that child, I do not want to get any mileage out of it. I'm just supporting, as a principal of a school, supporting this child in my school to go through school. And I don't go up the hills to talk and say, today I've supported this one. It is something that is only my board and that would know. But the individual parents who are sent back are the ones who popularize the sending back. But you see, we have two aspects as principals. We have the administrative posture that we must take to ensure the schools run. But again, we also have our soft side. We are human. We have the human side, and we understand. We follow. For me to allow a child to walk through school for 4 years, it means I've done enough groundwork, background check, and seen that surely this child is needy and I will support this child. And we do so. If you visited these schools, each and every school, and you listened to the story of the principal, whether in the boys or girls schools, and how many children they support,
that's true.
You will be surprised. I would want to ask you just do a research. Then maybe in one of your discussions, you can highlight to the general public.
Yeah.
Because no individual principal will come out to say that this is what I've done, because that would mean you want to glorify yourself.
That's
But
very
we
true.
are doing it for the love of our children and the love of our country.
Indeed, it's true. In fact, the stories of school principals and the humane side of school principals are all over the country. One of your former members is in the studio this morning. He's C.T. Muga. He's been asking you a number of questions. So he speaks to us all the time, and he tells us, he gives us the experience that he had when he was a school principal a couple of decades ago. And it's true. We've gone through this. Mr. Kahindi Muli, we want to thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. And we wish you all the best as schools reopen, as your fellow principals and teachers and other cadres of workers in schools welcome the learners back to schools. We wish all of you all the best.
Thank you. I want to wish all of us as a country all the best as we reopen schools. And pray that things will be okay.
Sure.
The first 14 days are very crucial for us in schools. We can compare notes again after the 14 days and see how is the situation.
Indeed, we will do that.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share
Thank
what
you
we
so
have
much.
shared. Thank you.
Asante sana. And keep it right here. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We'll give you an opportunity to also call in and give us your experience as schools are reopening this morning. Keep it right here. In the next hour, we speak to government spokesman, the retired Colonel Cyrus Aguna, on schools reopening and all the other measures that have been in place in the fight against COVID-19 and in managing the country. New year, new taxes that have come back, economy where it is, all the other expectations of a government and everything else. Keep it right here. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. Remember, you can tune in to the Situation Room on Spice FM KE, on YouTube, on Facebook, and Twitter. It's now 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Okay, let's look how things may have changed. Looking at Mombasa Road and outbound, not too much of an issue. Inbound to the city centre, however, moving very, very slowly all the way from the SGR and then out towards Nyayo Stadium. We're not seeing anything else. On Thika Road is moving very slowly as well. We're looking at getting towards the Pangani Tunnel. That's going to take some time to get into the city centre. All right, let's also look then coming in from Westlands, coming in from Langata Road, coming in from Gong Road. Not too bad right now. Where we're seeing the issues is Langata Road, Thika Road and Mombasa Road, and a few accidents that we've seen outside of the city. Talk to us through the day. Let us know what it is that you do see. Spice FM KE on Twitter in case you get stuck, or text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your
it's
day.
2.5 minutes after 8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room, broadcasting from Nairobi to the world. This includes www.spicefm.co.ke. So now we have City Muga in the studio, and he's here with his monkey, which is loaded.
If you marry a monkey for its wealth, the money goes and the monkey remains.
If you marry a monkey for its wealth, the money goes and the monkey remains.
It's the money which goes on the monkey. The monkey goes. No, the money goes and the monkey remains.
Well, you were hoping it to be the other way around, right?
Yes.
You were marrying the monkey hoping that the monkey will go and you'll be left with the money.
And lo and behold.
I can't wait to hear, why did you pick this particular proverb? And how would you translate this proverb? Okay. Just thinking. From political coalitions.
Oh, really?
Well, think of the unlikely.
And then, called the Parliament of Monkeys.
Yes. Parliament
of monkeys,
as opposed to a hood, as opposed to a shoal, as opposed to a pride. Parliament
of monkeys.
Yes, that's what you call a group of monkeys.
Yes.
Money goes, and the monkeys remain.
Yeah. So focus your mind on the unlikely.
Think about it.
The unlikely.
Money goes and the Parliament remains.
Yes, exactly. If you think of the unlikely, then the monkey issue simply becomes a little more accommodatable. And you begin to figure, so these are the possibilities, right? And these are the impossibilities. And then these are the consequences.
So you basically just decided to do something that is unthinkable. You married a monkey.
Yes, exactly.
And your whole excuse here and justification for it was, I'm going to get the money.
Precisely. And then money on whose terms? Money and wealth, according to the monkey, may not be money and wealth according to you. But let's take the view that it's money according to you.
To you. That's why you are marrying the monkey.
That's you're marrying the monkey in the first place.
Yeah.
Does the monkey know that this wealth, as you consider it, is actually wealth? And what
does
does
it
the
know
monkey
that's why you married it?
Exactly. And what does this monkey consider to be wealth? And how will it handle? Yes.
And where does the money go?
There's a whole parliament of issues.
Touché.
Okay. It's the first Monday of the year. And first Monday of the year for many people. Schools are reopening. Many people are going back to work today. New Year's happened on a Friday. It was a public holiday, of course. Then you have the weekend. Now, Monday.
Stress.
Back to work.
Stress.
Back to school. Back to everything. Back to stress. And the government is looking at you and thinking, well, come back. You know, that VAT that we had given you at some reprieve of to 14%, back to 16%.
Just in case you're thinking that you're really safe to get out of the waters or get into the waters, there's a 64-year-old property law that determines the rates. The government is planning to up it, improve it, so that everyone who is in property in one way or the other now also gets to pay tax or gets to pay rates. So, interesting times ahead of us.
Very interesting times. We'll be talking about this, especially the new tax measures that the government has rolled out starting this year. We'll be having proper, intense tax conversations around this. But also, let's look at the other things that the government is starting the new year with. So, starting the new year with the government taking children back to school. This has issues with transportation. This has issues with looking at the spread of COVID-19 and being prepared, starting the new year after the festive period where, yes, we saw the infection rate or the positivity rate was dropping. But knowing how people have behaved during this period, we expect to see a reversal of this in coming days. Is the government prepared to handle this rising number of cases? If the government is still continuing with the direct information and urging people to observe the measures to avoid COVID-19. Are people following that? Is the government going to maintain this sort of line of communication? At the same time, everybody is looking at the government and seeing people in other parts of the world being vaccinated. And you're wondering, so when is that going to arrive here? When are we going to get vaccinated for this COVID-19? So that as well is a conversation that needs to happen. And as you said, CT, it's about time the government started increasing its communication and awareness on what vaccination is. This COVID-19 vaccine, what is it about? Is it introducing a disease into your system and telling the system that this is a disease that you shall deal with? Is it a cure for COVID-19? And do you need to get it once in your life, or is it every year that you shall be getting this? What kind of side effects are you expecting? Who is most likely to not get the first round of COVID-19? Who is most likely going to get the first round of COVID-19 when it comes? There's a lot of communication that needs to go with this.
Yes, it does. And we need to talk about other vaccines that have been with us for the longest time, that we've been receiving, all of us, even I as a child. People have taken for granted. These conversations are important because it then opens the door for some honest conversation that the government can have with these people. Whether people listen, don't listen, accept, don't accept, that's a completely different discussion, but it must be had. And while having this discussion about health, you must also have the discussion about wealth.
People's wealth.
The country's wealth, which is our wealth, and which is what we contribute towards the government. Because in the absence of our wealth, and in the absence of our contributing to the government has no wealth.
Okay.
Yes.
So this whole talk about whether we are broke or not, we need to have that conversation.
It is important for us to discuss it because we need to understand and people need to understand. And more importantly, a little element of truth won't hurt us.
No.
Yes. But the discussion must be, and it must be a continuous discusussion so that this public participation we keep talking about is actually genuinely and honestly public participation, whether it's matters of wealth, whether it's matters of health, whether it's matters of security. All these things are discussed in a way that the public cannot then turn and say, we were not told. The government can say, you have been told, and not once. We've had a whole series of discussions about these things. And it's been a public domain, genuinely in the public domain.
So let's have a conversation with the government then, all right?
Yes.
And the spokesman for the government, the retired Colonel Cyrus Aguna, joins us on the line. Good morning, Colonel.
Good morning, my brother Eric. How are you?
Salama
And
kabisa.
all
Happy
the
New
others.
Year.
Mr. Sid, Happy New Year to you. Mr. City, my sister Ondo.
Good
Happy New
morning.
Year to you all. Good
We are delighted to see that you are well, Colonel. This is
Thank you so much.
we thank God for you.
Thank you so much, really.
Yes.
I am well.
You are in our prayers, sincerely. The little praying that
Yes.
I do, you got a bit of it.
Yes, and the prayers did work.
Yeah.
It appears that there
Yes.
were other people who also prayed, because if it was my prayers alone,
A lot of-
they might not have worked as well.
And a lot of people did pray for me, honestly. I must admit that. Even people that I never met before.
Yes.
But they did pray for me nonetheless. And I'm really thankful and grateful to them for having put me in their prayers because it did work.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Colonel, you sit there in that seat where you speak on behalf of the government.
Yes.
You know the kind of communication that the government has been putting out, especially on matters of just creating awareness on COVID-19 and what's happening in terms of COVID-19 in the country. Now, look at just this period of Christmas and how people have traveled across the country, how people have interacted. I'm sure you've seen very many images you've heard from people that you speak to. What would you say? Are people still considering COVID-19 a threat to their lives, in your opinion?
In a big way, they do. They do because even if you look at our positivity rate right now, it is a bit below 5%. And that is largely because people have been obeying these containment measures. You know, we should not look at this in isolation of where we started. We started, communicating about the COVID pandemic and the various containment measures from as early as March this year. And therefore, where we are right now in January 2021, a lot of information, is with the people. And if there are those who may not be obeying the, containment measures, it's a small minority. But largely, majority of people are obeying the containment measures. And that has what has contributed to the results that you're seeing today.
And is this because people are obeying and paying attention to the measures? Or are we also looking at the fact that things like testing have greatly reduced over the last 30 days, for example?
People have obeyed in a very, very big way. If you walk to any part of this country, trust me, almost everyone knows something or two about the containment measures against COVID. So majority of our people are obeying the social distancing. if when you walk into matatus, they are not, overpacking or overloading the way they used to do before. If you go to churches, the same thing. And plus other measures the government have been able to put in place, like curfews. People are not interacting the way they used to interact before. So those, measures have largely contributed to what we are seeing. So trust me, we are in a much better place than we would have been if these measures were not being followed strictly.
I agree with you, actually, that indeed measures are being taken and measures are actually being followed to some degree. But let me talk about what has been witnessed by me and others. It is that the measures that we have put in place may be adhered to in certain parts of the country, but in certain parts of the country, especially in the rural areas, people go about their business as though COVID never really existed, and that as far as they're concerned, it has absolutely nothing to do with them. People don't wear masks, they do not social distance. As I said, they just go about the business as they normally did. This is something that has been observed, it's something that has been recorded. And probably the question that you should be asking is, why are people doing this? And yet the government actually, in reality, has communicated the issues of COVID adequately, I think.
Mr. City, what you're saying may not apply across the board. Not every part of the country, people are not putting on masks properly. If you walk even in Nairobi town today, you realize that many people are putting their masks the right way. If you walk to other, far-flung counties, people are putting masks on. But you must also appreciate the fact that even when you build a church, you must also build a police station, in the sense that not everybody will be saved. So there are a few apples here and there that still require to be informed about these containment measures. But largely, on a bigger scale, or even if you had put on a scale of 0 to 10, you'd probably say about 9. But 9, so that's about 90% of our people have been able to obey the containment measures. So really, what we are seeing is an outcome of majority of our people. Even if you go to churches in the village, really, they are observing the government regulations of a third of the capacity. So we should not necessarily, generalize and say that the whole country people are not obeying these measures, because they actually do. Yes.
There's always been the question, Colonel, in terms of how the curfew assists in the containment of measures against COVID-19. Now, we've seen an extension of this for the next 3 months. And the question has come out quite largely since yesterday until now, that how is this actually going to help? How is it going to better the situation? Can you give some highlights into that?
Yes, I will. And honestly, this is a question that I've come many times, and the question that we shouldn't even be talking about, in the sense that, many, social joints where people interact very easily when they are a bit tipsy, those joints are not working past 10 o'clock. And these are dangerous, areas where, we would term as high-risk areas, because when you're a bit drunk, of course, you do not necessarily then be able to obey these containment measures. And therefore, it is also important for us and even members of the media to be able to process this information and be able to, educate the public that these measures have been put by the government to ensure that past working hours, past 10 o'clock, where majority of the people would be in social joints, would be in parties. Now, those parties have largely now been, banned for the time being for another 60 days. And these are areas that were really high-risk areas. So it is important that we educate about our people in as far as some of these measures the government has put in place is concerned, and the reasons behind them.
If I just think about that, obviously, to a great extent, when people are in these social places and then they get to a point where they are drunk, then they also now lose their inhibitions and they become more free and they even forget about the measures. That's true. But if you just compare that, for example, to the kind of images that we are seeing at the public beach in Mombasa over the New Year and Christmas festive period, would you not say that if you just look at the number of people who, for example, go into these public places during the day and those that would have gone to public places at night, you cannot really compare in terms of...
Yeah, but you see, my brother Eric, when talking about public places or public beaches in Mombasa, Mombasa is just one of the counties out of 47 counties.
Yes.
So when there's an issue that is maybe developing in one county or in one location, it may not be appropriate to generalize again that this is what is happening in other counties. That is number one. But number two is this, that all of us have got individual responsibility. And there are things that the government can do, but it's what I must do myself as an individual. If the government says that there is no, creating situations where people would be able to interact freely in large numbers, it is my responsibility as, a citizen of this country to be able to ask myself, why is the government saying this? The government says it to protect me and my family. Or number one responsibility is myself, not the government. And therefore, for those who might have gone to the beaches to be able to enjoy themselves, of course they're endangering their lives and the lives of their families. And when these kind of interactions, contribute to the infection numbers, again, we are applying pressure on our health facilities. And therefore, it is important, even using members of the media, you people, to be able to continue to educate our people in as far as the importance of obeying these containment measures, because the government alone cannot be able to police everyone. We must work as a society, we must work collectively in order for us to be able to achieve these, containment measures effectively.
I hear you, Kano, and I completely agree with you. What I'm just saying is just from a point of trying to compare and make the argument that if you impose a curfew at 10 p.m., you're basically saying that the people who would go to social places at night should not do so. But you've not told them not to go for any of these places from 11 a.m. when alcohol is allowed to be sold in public places.
Yeah, but you see, Eric,
and we have seen the number of people.
No gathering.
We see the number. This same social joints between 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. they're full.
Yeah, but then again, you must also understand, Eric, that first of all, you are a rational person, a rational being. Okay? And therefore, there are those measures that you yourself must be able to observe. The government, like I said from the beginning, cannot be able to stand in every bar to ensure that social distancing is maintained. It is your responsibility as a rational person. But again, you must also appreciate, Eric, that we have to appreciate our socioeconomic realities. That some of these joints also support our people in terms of livelihood. And therefore, we must strike a balance between, issues to do with health, but issues to do with economy or livelihoods as well. And therefore, some of these joints are able to ensure that, the livelihoods of our people are maintained, that they're able to earn a living and take care of their families, while at the same time obeying the containment measures until 10 o'clock when now curfew begins to apply.
Colonel, the angle that we are taking is not one of let's bash the government on this lovely first Monday of the year. It is that the government indeed has put measures in place. The government indeed has communicated. But even with all that, the citizens of this country are behaving in a certain way. And if this is how they are behaving, despite the fact that the government has been communicating, ought not the government then ask itself, if this is what is happening, what else ought we to do? How else should we look at this situation and ensure that our communication is actually adhered to in a way that would guarantee these listeners and our fellow citizens the capacity to actually enjoy life better or to have a healthier stay within this country of ours simply by adhering? That's really the discussion we're having. We are alive to the fact that the government has made tremendous effort. We're alive to the fact that the government has continued to do things which are positive to communicate, but we're also alive to the fact that people are not adhering.
I am aware, I understand what you're saying, Mr. City. But again, see what? As a society, as members of the press, again, we must also sometimes try to bring out positivity, positive things. A lot of times then focus on the negativity and in the process lose sight of very positive things that have been done. There's a negative narrative that is being, perpetrated by certain clique of people that the government is doing this, but then what about this? The media has a responsibility to inform, but also to educate. Education cannot just be left on the government alone without the involvement and active participation of the media. And therefore, all these measures the government has been able to put in place to ensure that our society is protected from COVID are measures that will not make much impact if members of the media are not necessarily, helping the government to communicate this information effectively. So when you bring in negativity in between, a very positive thing that government is saying, what that means is that people get, mixed, kind of messages. So I'm also appealing to you members of the media, in general, to also help the government communicate a positive attribute that the government has been able to, and even a, positive measure the government has been able to, put out there.
The other thing that we also do, as we do that as well, Colonel, is we're also very good at communicating to the government what the public is saying.
I agree.
And so sometimes when, for example, the public is wondering why certain measures are in place, and we pose the same question to the government, that it's incumbent upon the government to respond and explain itself and say, this is the reason why. So, for instance, now, the issue of curfew and the extension of curfew by a further 69 days and the other measures that are in place, we know, they've been in place for the better part of last year, and we've seen the impact of that. We've seen the rise and fall of the positivity rate in the country. We've seen the kind of measures that the government has put in place. We've seen the numbers that we still are below 100,000 in terms of the positive cases recorded in the country since the first case was recorded in the country on the 13th of March last year. So we know the impact of the measures that have been put in place. We know the impact of what the people have done and the response that the people have put in this and the effort that have been put by both the citizens and the government. So it's at the same time. But let's move on into the other parts of this morning's conversation. And this is with regards to now the reopening of schools this morning. Learners are going back to school across the country. A number of things come in play. We were speaking to the head of the Secondary School Heads Association, Mr. Kahindi Muli, earlier, and he was telling us that they are prepared, they've done the best they can to be able to support the learners as they come back to school, to be able to support the teachers and the other workers as their learning resumes. Bit that requires government support would be, for example, in the timely disbursement of money. And this was promised yesterday at the meeting that was held by the coordinating committee yesterday. Timely disbursement of funds. The other issue that was communicated by the CS for Education was the children who may not be able to afford a face mask. The government is going to do its best to ensure that these face masks are availed to the children. Now, how is this going to be rolled out? How are we going to identify the number of pupils in a certain school that require government support in face masks and to ensure that then they receive those face masks on time? Schools are already reopening today.
Yeah. First of all, let me start with the statement that as government we're really excited and very confident about the fact that after 10 months of children being at home, they're now going back to school. And that's something that you should actually be happy about and even excited about, not just as a government, but as a society. They were out of school for reasons that we're all aware about. It was necessary. But now it is time for them to go back to school. From the time that the learning was suspended until now when they're going back to school, a lot of things have happened. And like you did mention about issues to do with funds, indeed the minister yesterday did very, very clearly indicate that 4.6 billion for primary schools will be in the accounts today. Another 14.9 billion for secondary schools will be getting into secondary schools' accounts by the end of this week. So there's money that is going to be given out for schools to be able to implement and facilitate, help facilitate the implementation of the COVID-19 responses and measures in schools, including, of course, taking care of the learners. Now, with regards to the face mask, 7.5 million face masks are going to be given out to various schools to be given out to needy learners. Now, every school has got a committee that will be able to identify these learners because every school knows, the type of learners and the type of students that they have. So there should be no issue as far as, distributing these face masks, is concerned. Now, for those who are able to, acquire face masks for their children, certainly they have to, support the government in this. Like we did mention, like the minister did mention yesterday, this is a collective responsibility. You cannot leave it for the government alone. Parents must, step in. Board of management must step in. Teachers must step in. All of us collectively must step in to be able to support this. All right. But 7.5 million face masks are in the ready and will be given out to the needy schools to be able to be distributed to, these needy children. And it's up to the responsibility of school management to be able to identify the needy children that will be able to benefit from these masks.
Now, we're looking at measures that are being rolled out in the next couple of days as this happens in terms of longevity and then being able to maintain this. Are we going to, for as long as COVID is here, with us now in schools, coming from a government perspective, Colonel Oguna, are we going to be able to sustain this over time? We're hearing so many other things. I mean, because of the fact that we're hearing so many other things. Economy, there's a problem.
What do that thing say?
I mean, the economy is already. We already have a problem with the economy as we speak.
But why don't we cross that bridge when we reach there? Right now, the government has 7.5 million face masks to be given. That's a positive thing. Mm-hmm. So why are we looking at what will happen in another term?
For sure, it's absolutely laudable, Colonel, that this has been done, and I am not taking away from the merit of that in any way whatsoever.
Yes.
But we've always said, especially when you're looking at something like this that deals with the science, we've always said, world over, that you can look at the now, which you absolutely have to deal with, but with something like COVID, you have to look at what is coming, right? And we can't say that because we've done this and it will work for the next 3 months or so, that we're not going to look at how it will open up in the future. And we know that the best laid plans are what give you success. And I think it would be great to have a plan in place that we say, this is what we are looking at. This is what we would be able to set aside. This is how we hope to give this plan some life going forward. I think as difficult as it is and as overwhelming as it may sound, I think it's absolutely necessary to do.
But you see, like what I'm saying, is that the government has given out 7.5 million face masks. For now, why don't we celebrate that one for a start? Number two, the government cannot be able to roll out something that cannot be sustained, right? So we are talking about 3 months from now. Trust me, the government has got so many strategists who are looking at how best you can be able to sustain this. So let's cross that bridge when we get there. But trust me, the government is in control and be able to ensure that learners from needy families will be taken care of until they get out of school.
You see, Colonel, as has been mentioned by my colleague Ndu, we are in agreement here. But you see, there's a larger discussion here about not just face masks. There's a larger discussion about the trust deficit when it comes to the relationship that the government and the citizenry have. This really is what we're talking about here. Now, if the government has a policy of communicating clearly, like this issue of face masks, we are going to be talking about the issue of the face masks as much as we possibly can, and we are going to be lauding it over the air as much as we possibly can. However, even as we discuss this, we have to bring in other factors we think we need to discuss and other things that we also need to understand the government thinking, planning, and forecasting on, so that even as we have this larger discussion, the public that listen to us and hear are also included in that discussion. That's really what we're trying to do.
I understand and I agree with you, but I'm also saying that even as we look forward into 4 months from now, why don't we be able to celebrate what is ahead of us right now, right in front of us on the table? 7.5 million masks. That is given. Maybe the concern that we'll be raising is how will they be distributed? What are the structures in place to ensure that this mask gets to those needy schools and needy children, right? But going forward beyond 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, certainly the government has got plans to ensure that to come, next term, they will be able to ensure that these needy children are certainly protected, given sufficient masks to be able to ensure that they are able to learn.
Let's take a break at this point. Thank you very much to Colonel Cyrus Aguna, who's joined us this morning. We are talking about the government as it looks at its priorities in the year 2021, starting with schools reopening and the measures that have been put in place to ensure that our learners and teachers and other cadres of workers in schools are safe from COVID-19 and as we continue fighting COVID-19 and everything else. Keep it right here because this conversation continues. It's just warming up. 28 minutes to 9 o'clock. Let's look at weather and traffic, and then we continue with the government spokesman. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Maritime Tips brought to you by Kenya Maritime Authority. Precautions for boat owners, crew and passengers. Keep a distance of 2 meters between each other. Put on your masks. Sanitize your hands. Practice coughing and sneezing etiquette. Disinfect life jackets regularly. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces on board the boats and vessels, such as steering wheel, safety and guardrails, and seats. Provide disposal bins with lids on board boats and vessels. Limit passenger capacity to 50%. Do not overload your vessel. Observe government curfew times. Stay home if you have flu-like symptoms. Stay safe. Stop spread of coronavirus. Kenya Maritime Authority for safe and efficient water transport.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, looking how things have warmed up just a little bit in Nairobi. We're seeing 15 degrees, partly sunny conditions, partly cloudy. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 15. It's partly sunny in Nakuru at 17, highs of 26. 26 the high in Nyeri, 15 degrees at the moment, and mostly cloudy conditions in Eldoret at 8 degrees. It's cooling down considerably here as well, highs of 24. Mostly sunny conditions in Kisumu at 22. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 19 today. It's also mostly sunny in Kakamega. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 14. The low will be 25 in Mombasa, which it currently is. Rain expected for most parts of the morning with highs of 31. Mostly sunny conditions in Malindi at 21, highs of 25 and lows of 16. Light rain in Kampala at 21, highs of 25 and lows of 18, where it's partly sunny in Dar es Salaam at 24 degrees with highs of 32. Mostly cloudy conditions in Johannesburg at 17 degrees. We'll see highs of 23, and we'll see highs of 32 in Lagos, 26 at the moment, and lows of 25. And Kinshasa is mostly sunny this morning, highs of 29 and lows of 23.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
All right, so Waiakwe is very smooth this morning, getting into the CBD, not much of a problem. Right then around the University Way roundabout, looks pretty good, guys. Getting into the CBD is not too much of an issue from there. Where it is an issue, unfortunately, is Thika Road. Getting into the CBD, then through the Globe Cinema overpass, that's very slow. Getting Tomboya Street, if you can avoid that, and go then through Wangari Maathai Road, then roundabout into the city, you should be fine. Coming off Mombasa Road, slows down right between the SGR towards Cabanas and then opens up a little bit after General Motors. Slows down yet again as you try to approach the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Uhuru Highway also moving very slowly this morning. Heightened levels of traffic, looking a little bit like a manic Monday. We'll take a look at how this may change later, but it doesn't look too bad. Nothing tier worthy at the moment. Okay? Spice of MKE, that's how you can get to us on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, it's 24 minutes to 9 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, in the room this new year. Listen every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eric Latif Nduoko, CT Muga. Joining us on the line is the government spokesman, the retired Colonel Cyrus Suguna. We've been talking about the measures that the government has put in place to contain COVID-19 spread in the country. Schools are reopening today. The government has its plans in place. Colonel is telling us 7.5 million face masks have been made available for learners who are not able to afford face masks. And this will have, now there'll be mechanisms. Every school will have a committee that identifies the needy ones, and those needy ones then receive the face masks. So are those face masks available to be given out to the students today as we speak, Kano?
The face masks have been rolled out, given out to various coordinating committees in all the counties to be given out to the learners as they get to school today. The government is on top of things and will be able to ensure that these face masks, are given to all the needy students, and they'll be given, face masks that are reusable, not the single-use ones, right? So basically, the government is aware about the need for the learners to have these face masks throughout the term. So yes, that has been put in place, and the learners will have them.
So if I hear you correctly, the committee within the county will more or less determine the schools where these needy students are in and then distribute them accordingly. Is that what I hear you to be saying?
You see, this is not something that just happened now. The preparation to open schools has been going on for, quite some time now.
Yes.
But from the time that, that partial reopening, was ordered, of course, it was definite that a full reopening will also take place. So from that time till now, there have been various committees working out to determine, who are the needy students and who must be given face mask, all right, and who are these students that can be able to afford. So that, list is already there. That auditing has been done, so schools are aware of who the needy children are. But of course, certainly this face mask must be given to school through existing structures from the county to the sub-counties. All right, to ensure that there is accountability. So that has already been done. So right now, as students, learners are reporting back to school, the face mask will be there to be given to them.
Let's talk about the desks that were being rolled out initially. Have those now gone to all schools that were to benefit from?
They have gone to all schools, but again, the percentage of response has been, not necessarily 100% for all. So, according to the assessment that has been made, is that in the next 2 weeks, all schools will be able to get the desks.
What was the cause of the
delays? We're looking at another 2 weeks.
What was the cause of the delays?
Of course, the cause of the delay certainly with the, with the carpenters who are getting this desk to be done or to be put together and be given to schools. So there are issues to do with logistics, on their part. But the government has been able to give out contract to all those people who have been identified to be able to, that people with the capacity to undertake the construction of these desks.
The complaints that were coming, and I must say that maybe these are just a few complaints spaced out here and there, were from some of these artisans saying, they have been contracted to make the desks and they have not received money in good time, or the material that they're supposed to use for making the desks are not readily available to them. And so some of these challenges included that. How are these being sorted out?
Yeah, but see, like I talked about logistics. Logistics is a compound word. But I tell you what, some of the material that were being used to make these desks were not up to the scratch. And therefore, before the desks can be taken to schools, then they have to be inspected. Some of them are found not to be meeting the standards that were set by the government, and therefore they had to be redone. That, of course, now meant that a lot of time would be taken, and that's why you're saying that in the next 2 weeks, all this will be sorted out and desks will be taken to school. But they could not have been delivered without inspection. That takes a bit of time. Number two is about release of funds. Indeed, there must be procedural issues, procedures to be when payments are being done to these artisans. So sometimes, an artisan may want to believe that once a contract has been signed, money will be delivered immediately. That is not how a government works. And there are those procedural issues have been, they have been informed about them, and they are aware about how government's, payment system operates.
So as we look into the 2021, as we begin the new year, just speaking from the president's address as we were crossing over into the new year, he seems to have shaped the agenda for the government this year into, number one, the First Amendment to the Constitution, and then the issues of schools reopening. And at the same time, we are still fighting a pandemic. So if we were to list the government's priorities for this year in order of number 1 to number 5, number 1 being the highest priority. What would you say the government's agenda this year is going to be?
The government does not treat any priorities, higher than the other. The government is a very, large entity that can be able to handle many things at the same time. So indeed, going back to school is a priority. The issue of a constitutional amendment is a priority. Constructing and rebuilding the economy is a priority. So the government has got, the capacity to be able to deal with so many things at the same time. And I'm sure that this question is coming, from the point of view that why would we not, as a government, focus on maybe school reopening and not the other? But I tell you this, there are countries even in the world that have been able to deal with the pandemic, but at the same time undertake electioneering process, right? So the government is an entity that has got the capacity and the capability to be able to handle so many things at the same time. And this is not limited to just government out of this region, but also government within this region.
See, the government's capacity, Colonel, is not really in doubt. But again, what brings about these questions, what I raised earlier on about the trust deficit. Sometimes the government says things and clearly does not do. Now, and an explanation as to why it doesn't follow. You are giving a very good account and it's easy to understand what you're saying. And we are saying today and here that this should happen more often. Not necessarily in a talk show, but there should be more communication. Sometimes you want to do something and for reasons that may not be clear, it can't be done. And that's just the reality of it. The communication aspect of this is what we plan to do, but we cannot do it. And what we're able to do is this. I am saying it is often not clear enough. And when it isn't clear enough, then people make up their own minds as to what's happening. And they come up with all these fairy tales about what the government has done, what it hasn't done, what it could do, what it couldn't do, and so forth.
But as a government, we've been very, very open. We have been able to give out information about what we are doing, and in certain areas where things are not going, as they should, we have been able to do that. Some projects, of course, may not be necessarily, where they should be because of certain, liquidity issues. And we have even talked about, what was projected in as far as economic growth is concerned and where we are right now. So really, it is not accurate to say that as a government we've never been able to acknowledge situations whereby we are facing challenges. We have been a very open government, a government that is ready.
Colonel, forgive me, the government is not open. I'm telling you up front because as a friend of the government and as a friend to you personally, we in this studio would like to communicate to you what it is that is feedback from what we get. The general feeling, the government may feel it is open, the general public does not feel the government is open enough. This is really what we are saying.
Mr. City, I am the government spokesperson. And honestly, I go to most parts of this. I've been to most parts of the country, maybe not all. And whenever I go out there, my job has always been to communicate about government policies, initiatives, government, projects, and any other decision the government might have made that may impact on our people. And there is no one time that we've talked about A when actually it is B. We have said it as it is. If there is anything or any part of the country feel that they should have been told that they were not told, then that is something that we're willing to correct. But we have always come out forthright and telling the people as it is. Because then we must be able to be accountable as a government, and only be accountable by being able to communicate to our people, truthfully.
Maybe I should ask the question directly. Is the government cash strained, Colonel?
If the government, let me just put it this way. All countries of the world have got issues to do with economic growth, and because of the pandemic, right? It is nothing that is unique to Kenya government. It is not unique to other countries in this region. It is a situation that has been brought by, the pandemic. We have 2 million people that are out of jobs. Yep. So we must be able to appreciate that, these people being out of, work. Many, industries have been able to shut down because of the situation. Airlines are struggling across the world. Tourism industry has been impacted. So we must be able to account for this and ask ourselves, how has it impacted our economy? Indeed, where we are now is not where we were last year, but we must also take, pride and confidence in the fact that we are resilient, not just as a people, but as an economy. Yeah. And indicators are that we are actually beginning to pick up.
Now, with that reality then, that, where we were last year, 2 years ago, is not where we are starting the year 2021 in terms of collection of revenues, in terms of even the projected economic growth. What is the government doing to live within its means?
For sure, the government has been able to cut down on a lot of things. One of the things I can say that the government has been able to cut out is overseas travel. Nobody travels anymore, but that did happen even before the pandemic. So that the government has put measures in place to ensure that unnecessary expenditure areas have all been reduced or have all been cut down. So the government is trying all measures to be able to ensure that it is able to, cut down all unnecessary areas where money ordinarily would be used, but now that money has to be directed to other areas of priority, like combating the pandemic. And therefore, there have been many areas the government has been able to ensure that items that were targeted or programs targeted for those areas have all been put on hold until the situation improves.
I mean, I'm often, Colonel, as I think about it, often said that, the way in which a government shows you to its people is what you should believe. What they show is what you should believe. What would the government want Kenyans to believe is the situation right now? What would the government want Kenyans to believe plans going forward to take care of them and make sure that all support that they need going forward in terms of development is actually met? What would you want Kenyans to say, yes, this is what my government has said and this is what I actually believe? What would that be?
Look, as a government, and many people have been able to talk about this, that even our response to the pandemic has been almost exemplary compared to other countries of the world. We have been able to direct resources in combating this pandemic. But number two, there is no one time in the history of this country whereby so many projects have been rolled out, projects that are aimed at improving economic growth of this country, but at the same time, therefore, creating jobs so that many of our people can have livelihood. There is no one time. I can tell you for a fact that if I give the example of the Coast Region, the Coast Region has got 450 projects that are being rolled out by the government. Of course, there are different status of completion, but as and when they are completed, the Coast Region will be completely changed. And this applies to many other regions of this country. And therefore, the focus of the government, and this is something that people must believe in, is to improve development. It to be infrastructural, it to be social. In Nairobi alone, the government is rolling out 19 new hospitals in the informal settlement areas. That was never before. So come next year, we'll have many hospitals in this city that can be able to provide critical medical services to our people. Now that was never there before. So really, this is a government that has been concerned about improving the livelihood of its people. But we must also acknowledge that the pandemic has been able, to undermine some of these programs the government has been able to put in, has plans to be able to put in place. All right. So the pandemic, again, is not necessarily a Kenyan issue. It's a global issue. And many parts of the world are actually reeling from the impact of it. And therefore, we should not necessarily, say that the government has not been able to do this and other countries are doing this. The government, whatever the government has not been able to do, is actually something that is attributed to the situation that we are in of this pandemic.
So then you would want Kenyans to believe that everything that can be done is being done. I mean, if anything, it's kind of like an inspiration that you're saying to Kenyans now that as government, worry not, because everything that we can do right now, we are doing. And it is you, as the people of Kenya, whose best interests we have at heart when we go about any of this.
Certainly, yes. As a government, we are here to serve the people. That is what any government exists to do. And we are serving the people in the best possible way within the means that the government has, right? So there is no one time the government will spare any resources to be, if that resources can be directed towards helping the people. And honestly, for those who understand this country very well, from north to south, from east to west, the government has done so much that even in the history of this country, from the time we attained independence, has never been done before. This administration for the last 7 years has done tremendously, well in terms of infrastructure development. City may be able to tell, the rest of you that, even today, he can be able to go to his home, right, driving on tarmac, from where he is in the office to his house in the village. And there is electricity, there is water nearby. About 10, 15 years ago, that could never happen. City, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's very true. There are parts of the country that had never seen a tarmac road or an all-weather road that undoubtedly, and also it is true that this government has challenges that no other government in the history of this country has ever faced. No government has ever had to deal with implementing a constitution like this one.
And amending it.
And no government or no president has had a deputy he can't sack.
City, yes. Let me talk about, because I'm sure what you're bringing about is the BBI. It may be indirectly, but let me say this about it. Personally, and even from my office, the government spokesman, mine is to encourage people to get, to read the document, understand it, and make a decision. But I tell you this much, that if you look at the history of this country, for those who have been able to care to know, from 1992 until last elections, we have had a cycle whereby 1 year before elections, we have tension. People not wondering, or even people thinking, how will this thing go? People are afraid. Others already packing, ready to move to locate to other areas. Now, 2 years after elections, other issues again, and therefore, economy could never grow because we only have maybe 1 year to be able to grow economy. Maybe 2 years. The third year, which now will be the fourth year, when we are now getting into an election, it starts all over again. So our economy is one that we make one step back forward, another one step backwards. Because of issues to do with competition for power, competition for in elective positions. Now, if we can be able to correct that, Mr. City, through various posts that have been created, people may talk about these posts being expensive in terms of how much the government is going to put in to be able to to manage them in terms of paying those who be occupying those posts, for instance. But I'll tell you this much: if we are going to spend 1 billion shillings to save 150 billion shillings, to me, that's an investment that anybody should get involved in. All right? So I'm looking at how much we normally lose when we're getting into an election, and even after elections. The country sometimes just comes to a standstill, right? So if this thing can be able to help us be able to ensure that after every election, we accept that election is like a football game. There'll be winners and losers. And those who lose, they congratulate the winners. And we move on waiting for another 5 years. But in the meantime, our economy grows. I think that is what happens in global, most jurisdictions, most nations, whereby, people accept that election is a part of a political process of any country. It is not war. It is not be, filled with tension. It should be an activity whereby citizens participate in it actively and effectively, but I also be ready to accept that if my candidate wins, it is all and well. He will be able to compete another 5 years.
I think you put it really well, but what I really wanted to say was I wanted to add something positive to what you're saying, that in addition to even the clinics and the health facilities, boreholes, water is actually being provided for in areas that had never seen water within this county of Nairobi, something that, again, had never been seen, and it's now available.
Indeed, true.
Yes.
It's true. And allow me also, City, thanks for adding that to support me. But I'll tell those who are listening today, that work in any region of this, any country of this region, there is no country, Mr. City and my sister Ondu and Eric, that provides support for its old people the way this government is doing, that is able to create opportunities for young people the way this government is doing. This is a country that is unique in terms of taking care of its vulnerables, the old people, the young people, the disabled, the women. There is no country in this region, and I challenge you to travel and bring back that, feedback, if at all you can get. But it's the country really that sometimes we have so much going on for us, positive things, that sometimes one thing makes us lose, one negative thing makes us lose all the good things that the government is doing that is being done for the benefit of our people.
Have we sorted out that little matter of the PPEs in our health facilities?
You know, Mr. City, I, as an individual, I am a COVID survivor.
Yes.
But I've also been able, on the basis of my position, to traverse the country, even before I got infected. And I cannot recall any health facility that we visited that did not have PPEs.
Okay, maybe I should rephrase adequate PPEs.
You know, when you talk of adequate, it means that the numbers are there. But trust me, it would be awkward that the driver of any vehicle belonging to a health facility, an admin vehicle, he's driving that vehicle when he's clad in PPE. That even a grass cutter is clad in PPE. And therefore, when we talk about adequate, indeed it is adequate for those who must have them, not for everyone. And the government is aware about those who must have them. If you walk to a health facility and you don't know your status as far as COVID-19 is concerned, you will be received, all right? And the person who will receive you may not have full PPE, but that person will either have a face mask and gloves. Because at that time, no determination has been made whether you are, COVID positive or not. But as soon as the determination is done, whoever will manage you, all of them are clad in full PPEs. So when you talk about the PPEs are not there, it is not true. But we must accept, Mr. City and my other colleagues and friends, is that we are in a war situation. And in a war situation, there will be casualties. It is unfortunate that some of the casualties are our, frontline workers, the healthcare workers. But we must accept that there will be casualties, all right? You cannot be in a war situation, however well you're armed, expecting to come back from the battlefield, all of you. That is utopian belief. But in reality, there will always be some casualty.
Do I understand you to say, Colonel Oguna, that the health workers who were on strike, who went on strike on account of not having adequate PPEs, were not telling the country the truth?
You need to talk to them. You need to tell them.
We did a number of times.
Any one of them handling COVID case without a PPE. It is not true. And we have been asking them, they must be truthful with the country.
Many of them told us. So here, because we talked to them, and this is what they were saying, many of them were telling us, and well, we are speaking to the leadership of the unions, and they were telling us that there are many parts of the country where you'd go and find a health worker has been given one face mask to use an entire day. So this is one face mask, the disposable clinical face mask that is to be used throughout the day, or in some cases where they are not able to get the face masks in good time and they have to spend their own money to buy the face masks. This was not just in Nairobi, it was across the country.
I'll tell you what. If we do not have face masks in a health facility, or we are looking at our stock and we can see that in the next 3, 4, 5 days, it will be depleted, then we must make demands, a requisition, so that it can be replenished, all right? At Ministry of Health, they may not be able to tell until that requisition is brought out, right? So if there are issues in a certain health facility of face masks, yet we have got face masks in KEMSA, we've got face masks in the Ministry of Health, they've been able to distribute face masks all over the country. But then the users must also be able to say that the stock we have from our own assessment will be depleted in the next 1 week or so. And therefore you place fresh demands, all right? If they do not do that, for instance, and I'm not saying they did not, I'm only giving you a scenario, is that it might be very difficult for, the Ministry of Health to be able to know that a certain health facility in some, part of Baringo or some part of Siaya or Kisii may not be having face masks.
This will
And
be actually
therefore,
talking
it's
about
collect-
management and poor management. But if it's happening across the country, surely, Colonel Oguna, we cannot be saying that all
But I'm
med
also
soups
telling you,
across the
Eric,
country would
I'm
be.
telling you, sometimes do not, take a statement given to you as the truth. Sometimes you need to go and verify. And then I'm asking you, you have got correspondents on the ground. Please give them a task. Tell them that go to this facility and find out, do they handle COVID patients without PPEs? And then on the basis of that, then we can have a discussion. But let me tell you, this is a government that has taken the welfare of healthcare workers, even their safety as well, very, very seriously. And this is because without them, this pandemic will never be won. Why? Because a few of us will get unwell. And when we get unwell, we must go to them. We're looking at a pandemic in isolation of other infections, but there are other diseases. So when they are not there, even those diseases that previously were easily managed will not be effectively managed. So we need our healthcare workers to be at their workstations. And we'll do everything as a government to ensure that they are back at work.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning, Colonel Cyrus Oguna. Beginning the year with a message from the government. We'll be speaking with you, of course, throughout the years to pick up on other issues that keep coming up.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, my sister Ondo. Very much appreciated.
Thank
you, sir.
Thank you.
It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, traffic looking a little bit better coming off of Thika Road, getting into the CBD. However, it's also slow on Mombasa Road, then again in that clog-up area between the SGR and then moving towards General Motors, but it looks all right. Other parts of the city look pretty good coming out of Westlands, very smooth today getting into the CBD, so not much of an issue there. Where it does clog up just a bit is then between Uhuru Highway, between the Nyeri Stadium roundabout and the CBD on Uhuru Highway there. All right, so let's keep watching this, seeing how this progresses as the minutes tick by. Talk to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter or text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation
All
Room,
right, and thank
the
you very
only
much for
way to
being
start
right
your...
here on The Situation Room on Spice FM, broadcasting in Nairobi, 94.4, Malindi is 97.7, Nyeri 90.9, Eldoret 96.7, 96.0 in Nakuru, 102.5 in Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa. There are people listening to us from all parts of the world on www.spicefm.co.ke or SpiceFMKE on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. We have people in the USA, we have people in Yangon, we have people in Down Under, in New Zealand and Australia, in the Pacific Islands, the Atlantic Islands, and across up north all the way to Russia and other cold parts of the world. People were in negative 10 degrees this morning. All of you, thank you very much for tuning in. 0719-012-600. We are now opening up the phone lines for you to have a conversation with us at the beginning of the year. But before we do that, let's talk about marrying a monkey.
If you marry a monkey for its wealth, the money goes and the monkey remains.
If you marry a monkey for its wealth.
Yep. The money goes.
Monkey remains.
Monkey remains.
You're left with the monkey on your shoulder.
Yep.
Okay.
It's also saying that you could marry a monkey for something else.
Think carefully about the unions you get yourself into.
Okay. Marry the money, not the monkey.
Or marry the monkey for other things apart from its wealth.
Can you imagine if it was the monkey?
Other things will not go.
If the monkey was the one who was putting across this proverb.
If you're married by a human because of your money, the money goes, the human
and this human actually remains. Can you imagine?
There would be a litany of things that would come as a result of that. Humans.
Oh, goodness. Okay. That conversation that we've had with Colonel Cyrus Aguna, in terms of the government outlook, and he says the government does not have priority areas. The government deals with everything at the same time, with the same intensity and gravity and focus, right? So there are many things that we are dealing with this year as we begin the new year. We are beginning 2021. We are in the middle of a pandemic. Thankfully, and thank God, the pandemic is not doing to us what it's doing in other parts of the world. So our kids are going back to school from this morning. We are going back to work. Those who have taken a break are resuming work from this morning. Those who lost their jobs are looking at what are we going to do as we begin the new year. We're looking for new opportunities. The government itself is looking at how it can raise revenues so that it can sustain its own operations, its own programs and plans for this year. And that's why we have new taxes that are coming into effect. The resumption of the taxes that had been waived a bit for some parts of last year. VAT is back to 16%, and everything else. Payee is back for everybody earning 24,000 and above. In fact, now the bracket for where 30% gets applied has come lower to about 36,000 shillings. All this money, income tax is back full to 30%, plus some new taxes that are coming in. There's something called a minimum tax. So it doesn't matter whether you're making money or you're making losses, you will pay a tax. It's not about, I made losses, so I cannot. Nothing. There's a minimum tax now, you shall pay. There are new taxes now. You're talking about land?
Yes, my friend, Treasury is seeking to overhaul the 1956 property valuation laws. Yes, let me just read. In a bid to determine new land rates and bring more property owners across communities into the tax bracket.
What to a lipe tax?
Kill them to a lipe tax.
The government needs money. The government needs to operate. So the question that we are asking you this morning is your expectations for 2021 as we begin the new year, and also how you expect to support the government to live its life. All right, are you prepared, and what is it that you can do? Because ask not what the government can do for you. Instead, ask, what can you do for your government? Right? So what is it that you're prepared to do? What is it that you're thinking? Your brilliant ideas of how you can support the government so the government can stay stable.
In fact, what is actually interesting with regards to this is that the thinking is that it will also enhance the revenue collection, the revenue base for the counties. Because these lands that we speak of are based within the counties. Yes. And remember, two things that are being looked at here, two acts, okay? There is the Rating Act of 1956 and the Rating Act of 1963. Really, this was previous.
Why have they never been reviewed? What is the wisdom behind?
Maybe they have been reviewed. Maybe, put it this way, it served a purpose then, and there was no need to seek the changes. But given the circumstances that we now find ourselves in, it is patently obvious that whatever rating we had in place has now proved inadequate, meaning there is a lot more that could be received that is not being received, to really put it simply. Yes.
Okay. I mean, 1956, surely. Surely. Anyway, 0719-012-600. Would love to hear from you this morning. Ed Getonga in Nyeri. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Happy New Year.
Ed?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Formerly Santa now.
Ex-Santa.
Yeah, Ed Santa. How you doing, guys?
Good.
Well, it's nice to have you back. Man, it was boring. It sucked.
What do you mean? It was just us. We were listening to previous recordings of the same show.
like okay, yeah, but kula ugali meganda sio kula ugali yenyewe. Now, here's the thing. Before I answer your question, I've had a conversation with Cyrus Oguna.
Yeah.
And he's anarukaruka bana nile. He's avoiding. He's avoiding essential things. He's only focusing on the mask. And I remember telling you last year that these guys in government, at times they set up policies. It's like they live in utopia. I can take you like to 4 schools in my local area, 4 primary schools, and then I'll ask you what Magoha said. Watoto wasomee kwa miti. Kindly show me the trees. I can tell you this for a fact. Most parents, as you know, I'm in the traveling industry, so at times we talk. I'm an extrovert, ongea na watu. And I can tell you, most parents are, they're just taking their kids to school because it's a government directive.
They would not be ready otherwise. Is all what you're saying, Ed, that if there was no ultimatum or, set date by government to say go ahead, then they would keep their children at home. For what reasons?
For what reason?
For what reasons?
Why would they?
Why?
I'm also part of the people who feel the government has just rolled out a plan that is pretty immature. In the sense that, how can I keep my kids safe? Kids can never say, like you can't tell me a primary school, a class that has 83 pupils, so to speak. You cannot tell me that they're going to observe social distance, yet there are no new classes or new measures set in place.
Ed, when you say very many parents, I mean, I really would like to know, how do you arrive at this point where you say many parents? You've said you are one of them, but who the others that form this part of many, how do you know that they exist?
This is how I do, I just introduce a conversation, okay? So, hey, Sheila inafungulwa this time. How do you feel? Me, I raise out my issue. Me, I don't think it's safe. And then maybe someone is going to raise another issue. And then you get, it's like what the Moranga senator did. It's not scientific. No, but it's the general view of people.
Okay.
But now, here's the thing. Tutawapeleka shule. But we sure hope, I really hope that the government is really going to prioritize. Let us do a better work. Let the government do better work in prioritizing stuff than it did last year. That is my kind, humble request to the government.
What in your opinion, should be top of the priority for government? Like if you had to give us the top 3 issues that the government should focus on in 2021.
1, economic stimulation. We need to get the economy back to where it was or somewhere near to that. And when I say that, kindly, we end up we are fed up of that. Yes, set up measures in place that we are going to recover money. That is 1. 2, the government should be actually, on the forefront to try and find, if not the best vaccine, at least to try and find measures that we are going to curb COVID-19. Because as you are saying, guys, Cyrus Oguna was saying that Mwacha Kumulika Mombasa. Mombasa is just one county. I am going to tell you this. Those days that you guys have been missing, and their Christmas. I tell you, blabu zilikuwa zimejaa. Matatu ulikuwa unabeba mpaka unaambia mtu sina mahali, anakuambia hapana, nitakaa kwa mtaro. So, and I'm going to tell you this for a fact. People have not observed, have been careless during that festive season.
So you have carried excess in matatus. People have gone into pubs. People are not wearing masks.
Yes. Unapata mtu mpaka akona mask anasema mimi nimesahau ni like si ununue hapa hapana twende. Kwani iko nini?
Okay.
Okay, Ed.
Have a good day and happy new year. Okay?
Happy New Year and have a good day, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay.
0719-012-600. What is it that you think the government should do in terms of prioritizing issues this year? What would be your own priorities, and how can the citizens' priorities and the government's priorities align?
You know, something that Colonel Laguna mentioned, and which I think we should also continuously repeat, this normal that people keep saying they ought to do, it won't happen. Not it can't happen, it won't. And the reason why it won't is because the circumstances have changed drastically. The government cannot earn what it used to earn from the taxes because some of the people, a good number of the people who used to pay those taxes no longer have money to tax. Just the means. They may willingly want to pay their taxes, but they are not in a position to. So it means the government is not in a position to collect those taxes, which means there'll be a deficit in that sort of money. So what we're actually talking about is what the government can do with the resources it has. What is it that it can do with what is possible, what is available, and how best can they ensure that the citizenry benefit from this?
That's asking a tall one for the government. 17 minutes after 7, 0719-012-600. We'd love to hear from you this morning. Happy New Year, wherever you tuned in.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's partly sunny in Nairobi. We're going to see those cloudy conditions for most parts of the morning. Highs of 26 today. We'll see highs of 26 in Nakuru as well. Partly sunny at 18. Mostly cloudy in Nyeri at 17 with highs of 26 and lows of 11. It's also mostly cloudy in Eldoret this morning. Well, warming up ever so slightly. Highs of 24. 26 will be the high in Kisumu today. Mostly cloudy conditions at 19 degrees. 19 also in Kakamega, highs of 28 and lows of 14. 29 degrees and light rain in Mombasa, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Malindi is mostly cloudy at 19. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 16. Seeing light rain continuing in Kampala this morning at 22, highs of 25 and lows of 19. And Dar es Salaam is partly sunny at 26 with highs of 32 and lows of 25. It's mostly cloudy in Johannesburg at 17, highs of 23. Lagos this morning is clear at 26, highs of 32 and lows of 25. Sunny conditions in Kinshasa at 23 with highs of 29. Looking at -1 and sunny conditions in Beijing. -1 will be the highs, only going to get that warm. Lows of -12 today. Cloudy conditions in Paris at 2. Highs of 3 coming back down to lows of 2. And we'll see cloudy conditions in London as well at 4. Highs of 5 and lows of 3. And for New York now, Monday morning, 3 degrees. It's snowing. Highs of 7 and lows of 1.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
20 minutes after 9, this is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room broadcasting in Nairobi. 0719-012-600 is the number. We'd love to hear from you this morning as we begin this new year. New Year resolutions for you, for the government. What is it that you expect to see happening in this new year? And what do you want to hear from your government? Okay? So a number of things also Ed is saying. First of all, government should focus on how to revive this economy. on how to make sure that those that have lost their livelihoods are at least able to earn something throughout this year. So as we do that, there are many things that would come into play. And he says he does not want to hear that the government is borrowing money to come up with economic stimulus packages. So where shall the money come from?
That's the thing, unfortunately. Continue to borrow against borrowing against borrowing.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one.
It's a very tough one. Let's hear from Peter Mugeni, who is calling from Kisumu. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Eric. Good morning, Duoco. Good morning, City.
Good morning.
I listened to the conversation from the government spokesman, and he did not really answer the issue around the priorities. But for me, I think that when you have less money, and you made the point, there's really going to be far more less, and we know that the current expenditure is high. I think that is only in government where there's a lot of wastage. You buy a pen for 1,000 shillings, and everybody knows it costs 10 shillings. Focus should be on spending far less on issues, and it shouldn't be necessarily be rocket science to know that you can procure for less if you're a big buyer. I see in the county where I am right now, you see a governor going around, he has 30 vehicles. There's less money to pay healthcare workers, but there's more money to fuel the entourage that the governor walks around with. I think to me that's where the focus should be.
So cutting back on government spending.
It's not just that, it's the wastage basically, because cutting back, like he said, reducing overseas travel is one part.
Yeah.
But if you find a government would buy a ticket, even if it's a local ticket, they would buy it at 3 times what everybody else buys it for. So it's just looking at those areas where if you do market research, you find that an item costs far much less than the government actually does pay for, and it's all in that whole procurement area in my view.
But then looking a little bit deeper into that, then I think what you're then looking towards is reduction in corruption and impunity. Because if somebody's saying that you're going to spend 1,000 shillings on something that costs 10, and that then ranks up in terms of expenditure, then it's not on the money that you're spending, but it's the attitude behind the spend. And then that essentially, I hear you saying, Peter, that you're not asking for reduction on corruption.
Yes, there are actually 2 aspects to it. And one is that, what you are saying. But the other one, just figure out if you, for the people that we are saying they have lost their jobs, for example, if you had 2 vehicles that you are using as a family, you're going to have to use one. If your kids are going to this particular school, you're going to go to another school.
Yeah.
So what we often see in government is that, yes, money is the resources are fewer, but what they were spending on previously stays the same. And I was giving you the example of the counties. I would have expected that if the county is saying we haven't received money for 3 months in a row, if you used to move around with 30 vehicles, you should be moving around with 2.
Yeah.
Get a bus.
Get a bus and reduce.
Yes.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you. Interesting conversation. Please carry on.
Asante sana. We wish you a happy 2021.
Same to you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Zachary.
Oh, hi.
Happy New Year.
Hi, Zachary.
Hey. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, Zachary.
Do you know what my challenge was since you guys left? My mornings have been very long and boring and when you are not there, I'm normally praised at the suicide watch by my only and only one.
Why there?
I know this is not supposed to be a laughing matter,
but now they have gone. They are saying, "Oh, his
so
guys
now your mornings are alive, quick, and interesting."
Very sure. You guys you do good.
Wow.
Asante.
Asante.
So, and Father Christmas, I understand that he is also well.
I have this strange feeling,
I'm happy. Now, if I were in government today, I would have actually understood that it is corona, the disease, the so-called corona, COVID-19, that brought about all these disruptions, And now that there is some hope, in terms of what we are calling the vaccine. If I were in government today, I would actually almost stop everything and make sure that the vaccine is available so that we go back to normal. Otherwise, unless that one is done, I don't find ourselves doing anything actually. Because once the vaccine is there, the hotels are going to actually come up, the hotel industry, the tourism industry. And also, definitely people are going to be, moving out and about doing business. And things like curfews will be things of the past, yeah? Mm-hmm. So the only thing between us and going back to actually what resembles normal or normalcy is actually availing the vaccine right now, not tomorrow, now.
Immediately.
That is the only solution.
Okay.
And I feel that the whole world should know that, actually.
Thank you.
That's my take. Otherwise, you guys have a nice day.
You too, Zachary.
You too, Zachary.
And if you have something that you left during Christmas, you can always share with us.
Thank you very much. And we also want to give you permission to do the same.
Okay. We shall see. We shall see who brings first.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you guys.
Have a lovely day, Zachary. 0719-012-600 or Spice FM KE on Facebook and Twitter. Okay, we have a number of messages that are coming in. We'll be sampling them as well as we continue on this show. You see, Lydia is also calling. Lydia, please call and we'll be able to speak to you. Here she is. Lydia, good morning.
Good morning. I got you at last.
Happy yes.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Lydia.
You and Eric. I really always must listen to Spice FM. You really help our brains to work. What I wanted to say is when you talk to the education official, I wanted to say coronavirus is our number one danger to our lives. And the number one help is the mask. And the worst thing is when I went to dinner for New Year, I took my mask and kept it on the table because I was eating. Mm-hmm. And I left it there and I was without the mask for the end of the day. So the schools are going to spend a lot of money on masks to children, to schools. So we must all tie a little string or made of material, cloth, to make it like a necklace to hang on our necks. Just as much as the mask, fitting it on your neck as a necklace is the best to save our lives. So the schools should not spend so much money on the mask without finishing it like a necklace.
To ensure that the child always has their mask around them.
Yes, it should hang like a necklace. So if you don't want to use it for the moment because you're eating, pull it down and it's hanging on your neck like a necklace. That you don't have to leave it on the table and then forget about it.
Okay.
And that costs a lot of money to the schools to buy the mask for the children.
Thank you very much, Lydia. And you actually raise a very issue. What is it that you do when you're wearing a mask and then you go and sit in this Italy? What do you do? Remove the mask.
Take it off.
And then
put it on the table.
Put it on the table?
Yes.
And then you shall pick it up from the table?
Yes.
Put it back on your face.
And then put it back on your face?
Yes, precisely that. In many places that you go to, let me talk about the few places I've gone to. The first thing they do is they clean that surface with
disinfectant.
Spray it, clean it. So it is assumed that it is now COVID-free. Okay.
I like the idea of Lydia's. Have a way of just making sure that you remove it and then it hangs. Just like the people who wear specs and they have this.
What people do is they hang it on their chins.
So there's already a physical apparatus for hanging the
You have it, yes. And those who can't, you hang it on your forehead.
Eat and then you bring it back down.
Yeah, so the question I want to ask is, you're talking about infection, the likelihood of it spreading. You think your face, as it is microbe-free at any given time? The answer is no, it isn't. So, in reality, any suggestion, I think, in this particular field is welcome because you cannot stop being careful.
Let's take a break. 9:30. Let's see what's happening on the roads. Okay, so everybody's now back. Roads are schools.
No, really, it's not bad.
Not yet.
No traffic today.
No traffic today.
Not really.
True.
Okay. Okay.
Not much.
So let's hear about that.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Evan Nosingishi was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
what
you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you. And it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
Spice up your life.
All right, where we normally see issues on Mombasa Road between the SGR and Cabanas, that seems to have leveled out quite some this morning as they're trying to get out into the CBD. It's not too terrible. Inbound, not even a case. So there we don't have a problem whatsoever. Looking at Thika Road, trying to get into the CBD, it's slowed down a little bit at the Pakani underpass, but that has opened up quite some as well. So getting into the CBD will not be too much of a headache. Not this morning, at least. Then within the CBD looks pretty good. Coming in from Westlands, coming in from Langata Road, Valley Road, everywhere you look, seems like traffic is flowing just smoothly. We don't know what it's going to look like tomorrow, but as we start off, these are good signs. You get stuck somewhere, let us know. We'll keep an eye on this throughout the rest of the day. You can talk to us via Twitter on SpiceFMKE and text on 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice.
Okay, well, interesting. Just looking at previous conversations that we had this morning, still folks are asking, what is the relationship between curfew and the spread of COVID-19? Would like to see more informed decisions by government this year. It would be great to say that they're making decisions based on information. That's from Wellington. Wellington also says, how exactly does a dusk till dawn curfew curb the spread of COVID-19? Is it that the virus gets active at night? More than 90% of the population is usually in their homes sleeping at that hour anyway. Other than killing nighttime businesses and making the corrupt police force brutalize and solicit money from those caught in the night, there's nothing else that the curfew serves. And Bernard says that it is now being used as a political tool for oppression. No scientific basing at all. Johanna Michael Wangenye says the government is good at talking of implementation, but on the ground 99% of nothing of it is not done. Okay, well, I don't know about the statistics.
99%.
In rural areas, desks have not reached up till now, and now we're talking about 7.5 million shillings for masks that will be distributed.
Actually, 7.5 million masks.
Yeah, 7 million masks, is what he said, yeah. He says, we are watching, and we will inform you if it is not happening in 2 weeks' time.
Would love to know, actually, this issue of masks. Because you're talking about, first of all, the identification of those that are vulnerable that then deserve to be given the free masks. The setting up of these committees that would identify this in every school. Is it the teachers? Is it teachers plus parents? Is it BOMs? How do we do this? How then do you receive the masks from whoever is holding it in the county and telling them, in my school, we have identified 50 students or 150 out of a population of 1,500 that deserve these masks. Bring them to us. And then they get to... At what point will the learners actually start receiving these masks? And then those that are deemed wealthy enough to afford a mask, how shall you ensure that they actually do have those masks? So be our ears and eyes on the ground, please. Just keep us informed on how this is happening, how this is being rolled out. Like Colonel Guna said, this is going to be rolled out. They are available already. They are ready. 7.5 million. Who got that tender?
See where your mind goes.
Yeah, but and they're available. So how are they going to be rolled out? Let's hear from Philip in Narok. Philip.
Hello.
Hello, Soba.
I am Spicer there.
Yes, Philip, you're on air. Good morning.
I'm good. Good morning too.
Philip, how is your new year? I mean, what are your priority areas for the year? Okay, Philip, I think what Philip has done is, you can talk to him. Philip still has his radio on, so it's a bit confusing to him because he's talking and then he's hearing somebody else talking, and that is me asking him a question. And that's the time when he's talking.
Okay.
So let that get sorted, and then we'll get Philip back on air. So we're asking you, what is it that you think should be government's top priorities this year, 2021? We have a number of issues. The president has already highlighted what he thinks should be the priority for the government going into this new year. We're still fighting a pandemic. There's schools reopening, and he says we're going to get our children back to school because the children have lost very many months just staying at home, and this is not good for especially these children at this developing age. So let them go back to school. The other thing that he says is we are in a constitutional moment, and we're going to have the First Amendment to the Constitution. And therefore, basically what he's saying is all systems go. We must have a referendum this year. This is priority for the government in terms of BBI. Whether BBI passes, whether BBI flops, that's a decision that will be made by Kenyans. So this decision is left to Kenyans to decide whether they want to approve what has been proposed as constitutional amendments. That is a priority number 2. The other areas that come in now are, how to revive the economy, how to make sure that everybody's livelihoods are back on track, how to support those that have lost heavily. Is the government able to still offer some social support to those that are completely vulnerable? Does the government have the money to do that? Is the government able to raise enough revenues to sustain the current operations and then go into those extra ones, the social ones? Very many big questions. And Ziti, you're looking at me and thinking, okay, so what?
What I'm actually thinking is I'm in agreement with you, but if you saw a little element of consternation written all over my forehead, it's because I was thinking, what is it that I would prioritize? What do I think would be a priority in a new year? And I think the priority is based on what I think is most important, really. So, is it my health? Is it my children? Is it my job? Or is it all these things? And
or is it to fix the things that went wrong in the last
year? Because it can't be all these things. The truth of the matter is, one of these things will actually trump the other. One of these things will actually be a priority. So, but again, how then do I balance it with everything else that is happening around me?
Yeah. What would be the priority? I think livelihood will be a priority for very many, because if you think about everything else, for you to be able to take care of the health and everything else, then you need to have that income.
You do.
So that livelihood, in terms of either getting a job or expanding the opportunities for income generation, or, making sure that you're at least trying to do the best you can to retain the job that you have, there's a priority number 1, so that then you can then have something to pay the bills for everything else.
Very true indeed. Very, very true.
I think Philip is now back in line. Philip, good morning.
Good morning too.
Good morning.
How is Narok today?
The Narok is quite good. We are doing well.
Right.
The Narok today, for me, what I wanted to contribute is that
yes,
is that the government should take the priorities to take the students to school and also to provide and be able to get all the impact, so that because the government, the parents in fraternity are really affected. Because in my county, in my own county, because now I'm in another supermarket, the really parents are really purchasing masks, those masks, and they're really being told that we should take all the packets.
Okay.
And you know that how it is more expensive. So sincerely, there's a way the parents are not really clear on where to get the school fees, on how to get the money, so that they should get them to their children.
Okay.
Yeah.
So government support for especially those that are now going back to school, many that have become vulnerable.
Yeah, because the vulnerable and also the other schools that they are really asking for the school fees and they are really sending away the children away from the school.
Okay. Thank you very much, Philip.
Yeah. Okay.
Asante sana. 0719-012-600. Yeah. So, just like Kahi Ndimuli, the school head was telling us, school heads are going to have very difficult conversations with very many parents. First, there is already those that were known, that these ones come from humble backgrounds, so these children require support. Then there are those that are from humble backgrounds but are getting support from the community, either through the Old Boys Association or the Old Girls Associations or Old Students Associations or PTAs that formed these kitties, or some bursaries, or just getting some sponsor from somewhere. Now, if all these old associations are already having problems because people have lost their incomes or the sponsors are not able to send money, so this person now falls into a different category. And then there are those that could afford, but their lives have changed. They will not be able to take their children back to school. Very many reasons why a parent would not be able to send their child back to school. What do we do with those? The government has come up with this very strong instruction, and the ngawas are going to be used to ensure that no child is staying at home. The children go to school. Okay, so they go to school. School heads are there and they're saying, okay, now I need to feed you guys.
Eric, the practicum, all these things are good, and it is supposed to be reassuring to parents. Let me go a little way back into history, when we started the free primary education, and with a clear understanding and instruction from the government as to what should be done and what should not be done. And then, again, in that same period of time, clear instruction from the government about school fees and whether children should be allowed in school or not. Then, along that same period, whether headmasters were allowed to increase payments to the school that were supposed to be charged to the parents to be made. Look, there are the intentions, then there's the practicality of it. These schools that we speak of, these fees that we speak of, if it isn't paid, there are things the school cannot do. It's not even complicated. They simply cannot do it. And remember, when we closed 10 months ago, it isn't as though there was money flowing in those 10 months. There was none.
Yeah.
So if the schools had debts then, the debts are still there.
Now.
So now you're going to talk to the vendors and say, who have not been paid for over 10 months, can we incur more debt with you? And yet payment is not necessary. And yet there's no fees coming in. This isn't even a catch-22. This is a multiple of catch-22. So as correctly, as Mr. Ndimuli mentioned, the discussions are going to be difficult, and there are ways in which one can find, should we say, a way forward. But the truth of the matter is that those discussions are based on a platform that we've never had before, where indeed parents actually have no income. Fact. Another fact, they cannot pay the fees. Fact.
Yeah.
The bursaries that the counties give or whatever government did,
CDF
yes, those things may not also be forthcoming. So it is not an easy situation.
It's going to be a tough one.
Yes.
It's going to be a tough one. Even now, the government says it's going to send out, by the end of this week, some close to 20 billion shillings to all the schools countrywide. Okay? When the government tells you by the end of this week we'll have disbursed 14.6 billion shillings, you take that with the lived experience that you have.
Thank you, Eric. You put it so very well. Yes. The lived experience should take precedence in everything.
In everything. You've seen this before. So let's just assume that by the end of this week, the schools don't have this money. Or that even by the end of next week, some schools don't have access to this money and the children are already here. What do you do as a school head? What do you do as a chair, as the board of management of this particular school?
Indeed, what do you do?
You agree maybe with the whole school community. It's okay. We are not able to provide lunch for now. Let the children just come and go home and they'll be eating at home. Or those that are in boarding, okay, let them just come. I don't know. It's tough times, man. It's tough times.
It's very, very tough times.
But you've got to live with them. I mean, you've got to where we are.
Yeah, this is not something that you can wish away.
Yep.
This is the situation as it is, and I think that I mean, trying to be safe to say that it would be very few people who would come and present a case that was not genuine and say, look, I'm actually not able to raise the fees because of 1, 2, 3. And I can show you that I've not been able to do that. But you're not going to be able to throw this situation out of the window and hope and wish it away. For every conversation that is being had, something needs to be done.
Should have had a concerted conversation, for example, even less talking to the members of parliament. So all 290 constituencies that receive 100 million shillings of CDF, right? So schools are going to reopen in a couple of months' time.
Sure.
What can you do to increase the kitty that goes into bursaries from the CDF for this particular year? So that the MPs then are already saying to the CDF committees in their constituencies, look guys, if our bursary was taking up 25% or 45% of the entire CDF kitty, let's take it to 80%. Let's see how we can play around and suspend and ensure that at least all our children who come to apply for bursaries when the schools reopen are able to get. Because now you're going to have cases where people are going to the CDF offices asking for bursaries, going to the county offices asking for bursaries, and all these places you're just getting the same limited amount. So if last year what you were able to get was 4,000 shillings in terms of bursary, this year you're told we can only afford to give you a check of 1,000 bob. Go to your school and the school tells you 1,000 bob.
What am I doing with this?
Yep. You know?
I mean, in terms of, I think going towards the end of last year, we talked about the fact that it was necessary to have real conversations. Real conversations need to also take place, now. Say, look, this is the situation. And I think that because it's such a difficult thing for everybody, there's got to be give and get in all these conversations that are happening. Is there a little bit more of a struggle that needs to be put on the side of parents? Yeah, to look for the money, to borrow it, to where you can get it from to be able to send to school. Because in as much as you don't have it to send your child to school, the school itself needs to be able to run on something.
Yep.
You're giving them your child essentially to school and to feed during the day and then essentially to bring home. There's something that they need in terms of fuel to get that done. So in as much as, before, like you said, there were children who had a difficult time when it came to paying fees. But they could often be supported by those other students who were paying. Now you have many more who are not able to pay. So that support then has disappeared. So everybody then is almost basically running on empty. So there needs to be give and get on both sides. As difficult as it is, something must be found.
To actually begin a journey, there are certain realities that you must actually not just confront, but accept having confronted them. For instance, that there is nothing normal about the situation that we are in. Remember, previously, bursaries were for parents who were known to have certain economic constraints and difficulties. Now, that number has increased. Yes. People who previously did not need that help now need the help. But the need for students to go to school hasn't lessened. In fact, if anything, as we begin a new year, there are more students who now enter the school system.
Yep.
And if you look at the way in our country, there are new parents, okay?
Yeah.
There are families that have other children who are going. So what it means is the burden they had previously has now increased. Everything functions as it normally did, yet the circumstances which made it possible for you to manage it has changed negatively for you. So it's tricky. You see, if we knew that the bursaries could actually be paid as, even the schools could negotiate the bursary and say, you pay this amount of money for this number of students.
Yeah.
Could you lessen it, but give this number so that at least there is some money for everyone. Everyone has it on record that they've paid some money. But if that isn't even there, then where do you even start?
So very tough conversations are going to be had this term and in this couple of days. And I mean, let's just wait and see. We'll be hearing from parents, from teachers, from head teachers, from other stakeholders, especially those who supply to schools, who are then also feeling, I mean, this is the way to stay in business is to just keep operating. Okay, so yeah, they're not paying, but at least if I supply, then I have somebody who owes me.
And you're going to get it at some point.
And this is better than just sitting there and not supplying anyone and having nobody to bill. So there's going to be tough
You know, Eric, you know that thinking was the sort of thinking that actually went on with people who are vendors for many counties in this country.
Yeah.
And all you did was you piled up debts to the point where you couldn't think.
You couldn't think anymore.
Yes. And the bank could be coming for you. And you know, banks don't want to hear this long story you have about not being paid.
No.
There was this understanding, and this was the security. That security is gone.
Gone.
And yet, this was a time when counties would actually get the money, but God alone knows how they would prioritize the pay.
In terms of payment.
Because for the government, national government, to have come in and said, we're giving you money and we want you to prioritize it in this way. People who are owed money from this period, meaning
Pay them
going
first.
back, pay them first.
Yep.
And yet again, there's a bit of a mix. Then the government clearly had less money, but people who were owed were still owed.
Yep.
Now, if that was before COVID, now you take that situation and transpose it to now when we have COVID and tell me what you think that mix is going to be.
It's very sad. Very sad.
It's tragically real.
And it's local economies, because the people who supply food to a local school are locals.
Locals,
right?
exactly.
8 minutes to 10. Let's take a break. We still want to hear from you. 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. Or Spice FM KE on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. They are smart, they are funny, and unfailingly entertaining. They are the adults in the room, and they are here to help you be the best adult you can be.
Just to be very honest with each other here. Not all of us are going to get tall, dark, and handsome. Not all of us are going to get 0.5s or chotaras. Some of us have to learn the short guys. Some of us have to learn those pot-belly people. Some of us have to learn older men or younger men.
Spice.
Don't ask your partner if he or she enjoyed it. I think the approach should always be, if she's enjoyed the journey, she will let you know. She'll tell you, hey, maze, your bus is big. Mi sijaipanda basi kubwa kama hii. Juu hata hii basi, hiyo mafuta tulieka yote, imetuleta hapa vizuri. Hii basi iko na nguvu. Hii basi iko na nguvu.
Spice.
Now into a relationship, it becomes like you've stopped your life, and then now me, I am your life. You see, like, what happened to your life? What happened to you? What did you
And
used to do?
women are guilty about that.
Is your wife listening to the show?
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not. The adults in the room will help you stay winning. Spice FM, Nakuru. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, about 5 minutes to 10. So, on October 24th, this billionaire called Jack Ma, he made a statement, a speech, in which he was basically just saying that China is stifling innovation. Right? The Chinese administration. Since then, up to date, Jack Ma, public, seen, no.
Nothing.
Has not been seen.
So the question is...
So now there's all this...
Where is Jack Ma?
Yeah, where is Jack Ma? It's basically
China is a big country.
And there are many people.
And there are many people. You know, a million is really something mind-boggling. 100
a-
And
million now,
they've
one
been
is
said to kind of look alike.
completely befuddling.
So-
Billion. And then you add, it's not 1, 2, higher. And again, higher. Not being seen, conjecture. So let's wait. I'm sure he'll soon appear.
In one way or the other.
Well, look, he made a statement, and if we were to consider the statement he has made, he is going to join very many other people who've made similar statements, which were interpreted by the ruling Communist Party as something next to being seditious. And China has a very clear and direct way of dealing with what they consider to be sedition. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes, you are guilty until proven innocent.
If you're guilty, and then if proven innocent, you might receive another punishment. Yeah.
Just so that you don't get them into this quagmire where they have to decide
to
which
decide
is which.
whether you're guilty or innocent once again.
Taking valuable state time.
No.
Surely.
And
Jimmy in Malindi, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year, Jimmy.
Happy New Year.
It's good to hear you this year.
Yeah, this year it's an year of blessings, an year full of God's promises. But what we expect is what I expect. Let me correct that. What I expect that it's an year with a lot of confusion. And let's not hide anything. It's an year that is going to be on my side. Anyway, let me just go to the point. You see, when you talk about taking the children to school now, and clearly we see UK, other countries are stopping planes coming from UK, and Kenya does not stop because, Kenya and UK, we can say we are one, though us, we have to use a visa to go there. But them, too, I believe they pay some little visa when they come here. I don't know. But, we are a British colony, and it's very hard a little bit to close for your colony out.
Jimmy, we were, not are.
But, yes?
I'm saying we were a colony.
I'm saying we were.
Oh, thank you. I thought I heard you said we are, and forgive me.
No.
It's my hearing that is a bit faulty. Yes.
We were, and that is it. We were, but we got independence. But we are still we are. Wow. Okay, so I think maybe you'll understand me what I mean. But we are a country who are independent. And we also have decisions to make as a country with a country which is being rejected because it's being, stigmatized because of its condition. And they are saying that they got it from South Africa. And South Africa is in Africa. And if it was from South Africa and then went to UK, and this thing is 70% contagious, it came out from Wuhan and went to other places, as they say, in 2019.
Oh,
and
COVID.
That's why it got a code. Yeah, COVID,
Okay.
2019. And that's why it got a COVID, the tag 19. And this other one, I don't know, which is in 2021. But in 2020, it was found in South Africa, and then went to UK as the
Jimmy.
UK said that it came from South Africa. Don't you see? There's a danger of opening schools now, because
bro,
we can make a very big problem.
So you feel that the
And
opening of
apply-
schools is ill-advised, ill-timed?
Yeah, I believe we can open schools where we have the Nyumba Kumi initiative, and then they organize those children sit all together at once, and we have teachers, people who are volunteers, and also parents can see about that, and people can be in
So
schools
we do some
home.
sort of homeschooling instead of reopening schools.
By the way, Jimmy, have we given you New Year greetings?
Not yet, but Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Jimmy. Are you well?
I am not very well, a little bit mentally, because of the reality of the matter and the way things are and where we are heading to now. But I am well because I have God, and He told us to be always positive.
Amen to that. Thank you, Jimmy.
So I remain positive.
Let's stay that way this year, Jimmy. Asante sana for your
but
call.
with some reality.
We shall be hearing from you in coming days as well.
Asante sana.
Thank
God bless
you. Thank
God
you.
bless you.
Coming to the end of the show, CT, today's proverb, and I want to hear this monkey business.
Well, actually, the monkeys are given a bad rap by human beings because anything that you consider a little untoward, monkey business. Anything that appears like you don't know how to handle it, monkey this or the other. Okay? Now, if you marry a monkey for its wealth, the money goes and the monkey remains. Think of the improbable and think of your investment into the probable with the expectations, but which doesn't take into account the reality of the situation. What then do you think is going to happen? You will have a surprise waiting for you, and yet it's a surprise that you could have seen if you had only just considered the reality of the situation, instead of banking on wishful thinking and hoping that it will bring results that it cannot possibly bring. It doesn't matter in which solar system you're in or in which galaxy you're in. It's simply the results will be the same, something that you clearly did not anticipate simply because you did not face the reality. You preferred to look at the situation in a way that suits your purposes.
Okay. Thank you for
Okay.
that. And thank you for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. in Duoko.
Yes.
Say goodbye to the monkeys and their money.
Oh, goodbye. Have a good day. Hey, guys, let's keep safe. We still need to try and do that as much as possible. Let's keep the conversations going. Important to keep talking about these things, right?
Yikes.